soon as you get it focused in, you're good. And we are live. Thank you, Jay. We'll get your t-shirt. Oh, you got a long sleeve t-shirt on today. All right, we'll get that on here in a minute. Thank you for tuning in. You are watching Sessions streamed live from Shaker's Bar downtown Cape. I'm joined by my regular guests that you're used to. It's Zach, Cody, Jonathan, and to my right, it's not Matt. It's not anybody else. It's the incomparable with an amazing story. I can't wait to tell it. Miss Holly Reeder and Raider, actually. Raider is the correct pronunciation.
Raider,
right?
yes.
Raider, thank you. Okay.
Football team.
There we go. Holly Raider. Holly is a state senator, and we're going to
state rep.
State rep. I'm
running
sorry.
for Senate.
Oh, you're running for Senate.
Yes, I'm
That's
state
what
representative.
It was.
Running
well,
for
you know what?
Senate.
That's prophecy. I said state senator. So there
like
you go.
that.
You're elected. Good job. Way to go. Is that how it works? Somebody just says it is, and then
It's
you
that
are.
easy, yeah. You just
Okay, so you're currently a state rep.
Yes.
For which district?
148. So that's Scott and Mississippi counties.
Scott and Mississippi counties. Okay, and so you are running for state senate, which I think is great because you make sure all the right laws get through, and I think that's awesome. But we're going to have you actually, I think, if it's okay with you, to kind of break down a little bit about what you do, like the representative, and then what a senator does, because I think a lot of people have some misconceptions about what they actually do. I know we're learning a lot because of the media, but not the right stuff sometimes. So we'll dive into that a little bit. So typically on the show, I send out topics, and we were going to originally, if you watched the show last week, we were going to talk about serial killers and get deep into that, but I was fortunate enough and honored to get Holly on the phone, and she was very quick to respond and has a very big schedule coming up, so we were able to snag her in here on a Thursday, so we changed the schedule up. So next week will be our serial killer episode. So as you guys know, what we do here is we've got our guests have our phones out. Well, I don't see you have your phone. Is it dead?
No, it's getting there though.
Yeah. Well, if you want to, put yours. I have charge.
Oh, you're good.
There you go.
That's all we do.
Oh, you don't have an iPhone, do you?
Yeah, I was going to say.
No iPhone.
No.
But typically I send out topics to the guest, and they, you guys can respond by getting on our messenger, and I see you guys are logging in now. If you have any questions for Ms. Raider, Mrs. Raider, I should say, you can send it in to us, and we'll get it to her. We don't want to overwhelm her with things. This is not a campaign stop per se, but we just want to learn a little about her and actually tell. She actually has an amazing story. I did a little research and read some things about you, and you have an amazing. It's actually a truly American story. It really is. So yeah. So we are honored to have her here, and she's bringing legitimacy to the show. We actually get legitimate stuff.
Oh,
not that you guys
sorry.
Not that you guys are.
Why do you think I wore a clean shirt tonight?
I said that to my wife earlier. I said, well, we're going to be legit tonight. And she goes, don't you already have guests that come on there? I'm like, yeah, but this is a statement up.
Yeah, but they suck.
Yeah, I know all them. So, and this is a very, I guess you'd say a participation. It's an interactive show.
Oh, yeah.
So we rely on you guys to respond and check with us. So if you are watching because Mrs. Raider's on, we'd love for you. I guess I'll just call you Holly.
Call me Holly, please.
Yeah,
yes.
Mrs. Raider probably makes you uncomfortable. Holly's here, so if you want to say hello to Holly because you're from her district, hopefully you are watching. She has Scott and Mississippi County. Is that correct? Yeah.
And the Senate seat covers Cape County as well.
Oh, looky there.
So this is perfect.
Okay, all right. So she is currently a rep, going to become a senator, and covering this county. So that's awesome. So let's get into it. We typically, the way we start out, Holly, is we kind of have some lighthearted banter, and your life experience will be good for this because we talk about everything. So in our first segment, we kind of go into stuff that I pulled up through the internet.
Scott says hi.
Scott says hi? Cool.
Yeah.
Scott for you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that's cool, yeah. Identify yourself.
Hello,
We'll let them know. Hello, Scott. There you go. I do want to say one thing as a little bit of, I just want to
I never throw last names, sorry.
Yeah, that's good. Mm-hmm. I want to throw one thing out. So everybody understands what's going on in the media right now. And I'm not going to be political about this. I'm just going to tell what's basically happened. They have been, and I just wanted to make this clear, they have been investigating President Trump since he's been actually before he got in office. They have now come to a point in the investigation where they ran out of ammo. So now they've got this new thing that's been blasting through the news right now.
Takeshi 6ix9ine?
It's Takeshi 6ix9ine. Takeshi 6ix9ine has told on President Trump. Well, that'll be next.
Right.
You'll see him saying, I got some info on President Trump. But
he got a comb over.
The truth of the matter is it's actually that silly. Yeah. And so here's what I want to say is with the revelations about Ukraine. Look into it for yourself. Research the information. I'm just going to lay it out there for you. The things that are going on are things that happen all of the time in Washington, and that is why people have a problem with Washington. So if you ever want to reach out to the American people, if you're in office and you're watching, or if you know someone, stop all the static and let's just work. Let's just get things done. And that's why I had you on the show, because you're a hard worker.
That's close enough.
I appreciate
Oh,
that.
okay. So you're not aware of this. So anytime, this started at the very beginning of the show. This is actually our 13th episode. Whenever I say anything like, that's why I do this show, that's why I started the show, that's why we're here to do this show, anything in that
Anything
realm,
that's close to that.
they do a cheers. They just look for a reason to drink is all it is. That's the only reason.
Got
So I just wanted to let you guys know, don't just listen to the media telling you stories, whether it's Fox News, CNN, it doesn't matter what it is. Do your own research, educate yourself. I'm not even going to tell you what to think or to feel about this. Just find out for yourself. And I will say this, in the last thing I'm going to say about it is this new document that came out about the whistleblower is all hyperbole and it's all secondhand information. That's all I'm going to say. The person that wrote the document has no actual personal experience with the president, only hearsay from other people, and that's clear in the document. So I'm sorry that wouldn't even play out in court. So anyway, done with that. So I did send out to everybody. We're going to get kind of into it a little bit, but we're going to do some light on our banner. Holly, what kind of movies do you like?
Well, I like romantic comedies,
Do you?
of course.
You like
Yep.
rom-coms? Okay.
Funny action.
Cool. So do you have would you say like your sense of humor is kind of on the silly side, or do you like the more of the serious type of humor? There's difference. So like the Monty Python and the Steve Martin type comedy, or do you like the Dumb and Dumber type comedy? Good test, right?
That is a good test.
This wasn't on the stuff.
A lot's
I-
writing on this, by the way.
Yes. We will know if we like you or not.
I'd say Dumb and Dumber.
There you go.
I'll take it. You want to hear the
Applause
most?
clap.
Want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
No, we don't. We really don't. Good answer. All right. So the reason I asked that is I like to, we kind of do a little entertainment to begin with, in the entertainment section. And that kind of, entertainment's a big thing for me because throughout my life, entertainment has been something I've kind of gone to kind of lose myself in something other than the everyday life. And so I like to ask people questions. So when you were a kid, Zach, what was a movie that you liked, like was kind of your go-to movie? Did you have a movie?
You know,
Escape from Alcatraz, was that it?
actually, that's a great movie.
It's a great movie.
But it was actually One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
You know what? It is. That's a great movie, though.
It's a phenomenal movie.
It is a really good movie. Now, when you and you don't know the whole story, but he's a lot of life experience and been in and out of the system because of just had a hard
Various,
childhood.
yeah.
But tell us, why would that be your favorite movie?
It's Jack's character. There was something about him, and he was entirely cynical, but I guess based on my upbringing, he made so much sense in that movie. And I don't know, it was always just like a comfort movie. You know, you put that on, follow it up with The Color Purple, and call it a day.
Okay.
You know,
all right. Well, Color Purple is definitely a good.
Yeah.
Movie. So One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Now I really like that movie because it shows the frailty of human existence.
Well, of course.
It shows
Of
how
course.
delicate we all are. And here's these guys, they're all in a mental institution back in the 70s.
Yeah.
Which, that was when it was a real institution.
I still have a
Right.
problem with Nurse Ratched. I'm just
That's right. She was just enforcing the rules.
Right.
But basically, I like it. I like his character's great. Now, Jack Nicholson played some awesome characters.
Really?
They're always kind of on the edge. What's that?
Jay actually just said, he's like, I've actually been to where One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest was filmed.
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah?
That's nice.
Where was that?
It's somewhere in Salem, Oregon. It's a mental hospital in there.
Oh, wow.
I didn't go there,
Really?
but
Oh, wait, let's do your T-shirt real quick, Jay. Come
Yeah,
on.
we need your T-shirt on here.
Joy Division.
Always love
Joy
it.
Division. Okay, I'm familiar with that.
This is for their single Atmosphere.
Okay. So Jay wears a different shirt every week. It's
a great song.
And so we typically, it kind of became kind of a thing. We were shooting over there and we shoot over here now, but he'll show his T-shirt. His mom comes out. He usually has about 50, 60 T-shirts that he has and wears a different one every week.
Nice.
Is that right? About 50 or 60? Yeah? Okay. So, One Flew Over Cuckoo's Nest. Cody, I'm very interested in what, like, when you were a kid, something
my
that
favorite
left an
movie when I was a
impact.
kid was Three Musketeers.
Nice. Okay.
Just saying, I could quote that movie word for word.
Was it just like the adventure and
I
stuff?
guess,
or-
yeah.
Like with Donald, Mickey, and Goofy, or the other one?
Definitely Tim Curry and
Okay.
Yes.
Tim Curry's a great actor. He really
Cardinal
is.
Richley.
The real question is, what's your favorite Tim Curry movie?
Oh, that's a good question. Man, that is a really good question. Legend, probably?
Legends.
The highest of fives.
That's really
the highest
good.
of fives.
That's a great one. I forgot about that one. All right, Holly. When you were a kid, movies and entertainment kind of leaves impressions on us. Was there something that stands out to you from your childhood?
Yeah, so we didn't have cable
I didn't
or
See, we're older
television.
than everybody.
I didn't have cable. What's up with
And
I'm
so-
50. Now, I'm not going to give your age.
I'm 50. No, I just turned 50
She
last
looks,
week.
Okay,
I'm
get it.
50.
You look so. Take your mic off and leave. You look way better than me. It's not fair.
Yeah, 50 shows on him.
It does. Look at my.
So the only movie that I watched, and I watched it over and over again because it was like HBO gave a special or something during that week.
Like a free preview.
Right.
Yeah, those were awesome,
And
weren't they?
so
It's
Xanadu.
the HBO preview week.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I watched Xanadu over and
Xanadu.
over again for like 72
Olivia
hours.
Newton-John. Yeah, I remember those. I'm glad you said that. The HBO free preview weekends were my favorite thing. So I didn't have any cable growing up. I had three. I actually first had one channel. We could only get KFES, and then we went crazy. We got WSIL TV and we got WPSD TV. Oh, this is like, see, now you get to see. This is like a big screen TV.
Oh, wow.
You can see all
Yeah,
the
it
downtown
is.
activities. And so I love the HBO weekends. And now that there's DVRs and way to record, whenever that happens, I go in there and I just go through the calendar and just record everything I can so I have movies so I don't have to pay for them. That's kind of how I do things because I'm smart about saving money.
Well, we had gotten cable, so we moved a lot growing up, and so we were in Houston, and my mom had just gotten some package, and we were like all so excited about just
felt awesome,
television,
didn't you? Yeah.
and then it was free movie, and it's Xanadu, and this super cool lady, Olivia Newton-John,
Yeah.
leg warmers.
She
all
was
that
really big then.
good stuff.
She really was. Yeah, the time of Grease and everything.
Nobody here even knows who she is, right?
Oh, I'm
No, yeah.
30. I'm not
I
that
know,
old.
I
I'm
know the
31.
name. I couldn't pick her out of a crowd, but I mean,
So now we're
I'm
going to put you to the
familiar.
test. Do you remember the song from Xanadu? Have to believe we are magic.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
We do sing-alongs. Thanks for jumping in with me. Make me feel like such a nerd. I appreciate that, Zach. You know what I'm going to say.
Anytime.
So, good movie. What about you, Jonathan? I'm fascinated because you're such a well-rounded guy, so I can't
Well,
imagine.
I don't know. My favorite movie growing up I since learned as I became an adult, is very harshly scrutinized. I loved Signs, like M. Night Shyamalan.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it was a great
I thought it was
movie.
incredible. Every review I've seen is just like, it was a great movie
think
until
that
the
was
last
one of
5
those
minutes.
few
I've watched it
really
again as
good
an
ones.
adult. I think it's incredible the whole way
love
through.
it,
I
yeah.
love it.
The last
It's-
5 minutes is what still messes me up to
Right.
this day. We ended up, Eric asked me this one time, he said, what movie actually messed up? It's Signs, bro. When you see him, like,
I agree, just like pumping that in there, and then the whole thing is he's just like, oh, that's why he's had asthma this entire time. Like he's holding his son, he's just like, that's why he had
You
asthma,
weren't breathing.
because
You weren't
this moment
breathing.
was going to come. It's incredible.
Dude,
I love it.
I'm
I
like all
still love it to
goosebumped
this
up
day.
right now.
I think it's fantastic.
So, you know what I liked about Signs the most was the fact that it was believable.
yeah.
Like you actually were in that situation and you
Yeah.
actually felt it. Are you familiar with Signs?
No.
Oh, Signs is about
watch this.
alien and visitors. So basically, it's Mel Gibson and his family,
Joaquin Phoenix.
Joaquin Phoenix, and what's the
Joaquin
not
Phoenix
Abigail
stole the
Breslin.
show
What was the
as
kid's
a-
name?
as like
Was
a
it Abigail
side
Breslin?
Yeah, the girl was Abigail.
Yeah, Abigail Breslin was in it. So basically, his wife has been killed and called RX, and he used to be a minister, and he gave up his faith because he didn't believe, and so he's on a farm, and basically the short version of the story is they runs in with aliens, and it's very believable. It's
Spoiler
more-
alerts, real quick. Sorry.
If you haven't watched Signs by now, sorry, Holly.
It's a full worldwide thing where they start realizing
Right.
they're just like, okay, well, aliens are they're on
Right.
Earth, they're floating in the sky, they're observing us, we're not sure exactly what they're doing, and so you are just kind of analyzing different characters, seeing how it's basically one family. You're analyzing one
Yeah.
family, seeing how they're reacting.
But
to
even
this
in the
event.
book about aliens, it's their house.
Yeah,
It's their house.
So they bring up like the daughter gets very interested in books about these kind of events, and so when they're looking through the pictures, it is their house that's being attacked. So it's like almost like a prophesied event, and they are one of the focal points of this whole situation.
Can we not?
I love it.
Can we not have a legitimate, great acted movie about aliens without the aliens being scary? Like, why is it that every time it's a
We have
what I mean?
Paul.
Like, what? Animated, like an actual seriously acted movie about aliens where we interact and they're not going to kill us.
Yeah.
Like even Contact with Jodie Foster.
Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Just about to say
That was still scary. They
Yeah,
sucked
they
a
were
kid up in the UFO, man. They
I mean, I
sucked
feel
him up
like
in
part
It
of it. I feel like
happens.
the idea behind that is if we were going to another planet where we knew there was intelligent
Yeah.
life, we would probably come stocked up and just kind of like, hey, like,
Starship
you guys
Troopers.
know that we're in charge
There was
here.
one
We're
where they were
humans.
jerks.
Yeah, that's what I'm
One
saying.
where
I
they,
think
like,
that's
put the
I think
aliens
that's the
in the
thought process
containment
behind it most of
sector.
the time. Is
I almost
like
said
if aliens
spliced,
came to
but,
us, they'd probably
you
be
know
like,
what I'm
hey,
talking
you
about?
are
I do.
way far below us, so
Remember
here's.
Which one?
There's one where aliens came here and we ended up being the ones being in jerks. We like put them in concentration camps.
Oh, District 9.
There we go.
There it is.
Fantastic.
Wait,
yeah.
that was in Australia. That has nothing to do with us. We would never do that here. So anyway, we just kind of have light banner. So I want to kind of get into it since we've got you and kind of give you a chance to kind of tell a little bit about yourself. I want you to tell as much about yourself as you want to. I'm going to give a little preface to everybody to kind of let you know. Holly is the reason I was so happy to get you on the show because I first read about your bio. I first read about you and kind of looked into who you were and what your philosophies were and what your ideals were. And of course, we lined up politically for one thing. But then I looked at your backstory and I was really interested because you have an inspirational story. And I know it's hard when people say stuff, oh, you're so, but it is. You really do have a really great American story. And I'm just going to preface it by saying, if you can sum it up just in a paragraph or two, kind of your experience for someone out there, because we have a lot of people that watch. We've done mental health episodes and we've done kind of self-help episodes where we're all in tune with that and we all kind of offer help to people. And we want, because we are everyday folks, we're not actors in Hollywood or big time TV hosts. We're just folks, and so we want to offer help to people, and we think this is a great format for that on this. So I would love for you, if you don't mind, to kind of just give us a little description of kind of how you became Holly today.
So, yes, and it's really odd because politics was never something that I was interested in or had time for. I didn't really realize how much it affects our daily lives. But so I grew up on welfare. My mother struggled with mental illness her whole life, and we would when things got rough, we would just hop a Greyhound bus and we would move. We would go somewhere else. But my mother and her parents were from Sikeston,
Okay.
and so we would always end up back in Sikeston. So we'd move to California, and then we'd move back to Sikeston, or we'd move back to Texas, and then move back to Sikeston. I spent my youngest years in Dallas, but I was born in Memphis, youngest years in Dallas, and then Florida to California, everything in between. But it was, lots of stepdads, mom's boyfriends in and out of the house. By the time one of my stepdads was a drug dealer, and my sister was an addict by the time she was 16. And she was 2 years older than me. When I was 15, I'd already decided I can't take the domestic violence, my mom getting, beat up and everything. I just couldn't take it anymore. And so I was planning to get married and get out, but we were in a really bad car accident and when I was 15. And so I married my boyfriend, who was 21 at the time, and quit school to take care of my mom and my little sister. And so within months, I was pregnant. And so at 16, I was a high school dropout, married, and had my first baby. And
Wow.
so I'm like, you know what?
Okay, my life was easy. I thought my life was, yeah.
Well, and the thing is that there's, in the trailer parks that I grew up in, there's a lot of people with the same story as me, and you just survive, you just make it. There was a lot of people that had it a lot rougher than I did, and so, I looked at my life and it's like, I need to do something different. I don't want my daughter to grow up the same way that I did, and I am absolutely right in that same path.
And you wanted to break the cycle.
I wanted to break the cycle, and so I did, and I did it through being in church and just putting my head down and working.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's kind of my story. I mean, I have a wonderful father, but he wasn't in my life because it's really hard when it comes to the way our child support system is set up. A lot of dads don't come around because if they're, you know, I mean, my mom was always threatening to put my dad in jail because of this or that child support or that or the other. And it runs men off from their children's lives. And anyways, we have a lot of problems with the system. But so now my dad and I have a really good relationship, and he's wonderful. But all of these things, and then becoming an adult, getting my GED, getting my college degree, all of these things just kind of put me on a path that when politics was something that I became aware of, I was working as a director of government affairs. I'd worked my way up in the company. I'd started in the mailroom, making minimum wage. I worked my way up to one of the director of government affairs, and I was asked to go to Jeff City to speak on a bill. That was when I first saw government. And I was surprised at how many people we had voting on things and deciding things that affected my bottom line that really didn't have skin in the game. My husband and I just started our business, and it's like, wow, we've got a ton of attorneys in here, and we need attorneys. I'm not saying anything bad about that, but we had a lot of people who were raised to be in politics, a lot of people who were attorneys, not many with my type of background, and could speak to the things that I could speak to. Now, and I think we need, you know, kind of a minestrone soup when it comes to government.
If you have all the same type of person, you're going to get all the same type of results.
Exactly. You've got to have people who can speak to different things. You know, I can speak to poverty. I can speak to the things that help pull people out of the system, help them get out of the system, not hold them in it, which is the way I saw a lot of our...
What position were you working when you got asked to go speak at Jefferson City? Were you still in the mailroom at that point?
No, I had worked my way up to Director of Government Affairs.
Okay.
So I was handling, that was really in my line of work there at the cable company that I worked for. And it was a bill that was going to affect the cable companies. And so they asked me to come explain how it was going to affect us. And when I got there, I'm like, wow, you know, this is how it works. And at that point, I spoke to my husband and said, you know, I might want to run for office one of these days.
What did he say?
Well, he had always, I mean, he got involved in government when Reagan became president and really loved politics. And so he was like, heck yeah, we're going to do this, you know?
Did that kind of reinforce and kind of really push you in that direction? Because I would imagine, just from your story, that whoever you married must be a pretty strong guy. He's got to be pretty strong.
He is,
To be your helpmate in life, he's
Yes.
got to be super strong. So, my wife is super powerful. She's a very strong woman, and I find myself reminding myself I got to be strong all the time because she's not weak. So if I start getting weak, she's like, hey, muscle up, buddy.
You got to hold your own.
Yeah, so I can imagine, much respect to your husband, because I can imagine that he must be the kind of guy that understood you did have a bigger purpose as far as, you know, your goals and your dreams, and for him to see that. And not only did he like politics, but here's his wife saying, I want to do that, something that you're interested in. I'm the same way with my wife. I'm like, heck yeah, you want to go to Jeff City? Let's go. Yeah, so that's awesome. Well, cool. So now, your business, if you don't mind talking about it. I know you mentioned that, and you guys started your own business, and it's become relatively successful.
Yes, so we've
and
been
with hard
very
work,
blessed.
and you guys are partners in the business.
We are. So I started working in the cable industry when I was 19 and in the mailroom, and that's where I met my husband. He was contracting cable in his summers between college semesters.
Okay.
And so he came in and worked for the cable company that I was working for, and that's how we met. But when we started our business, he had lost his job. He had been there for 16 years, and because of downsizing and moving some things around, we had an option to move to St. Louis. But at that point, my mother was sick, and it wasn't an option for us to move. I had a good job, and it wasn't an option for us to move. So he lost his job, and it took, I'm a bit of a risk taker, he's not.
Sure.
It took me a year to talk him into it, but so we started our own business, and at that point, I was working for all the cable companies in the state.
Oh, wow.
Lobbying for them on behalf of the cable industry, and so I was able to get us the contracts. He's technical and so good at engineering and everything to do with cable television. So he was able to fulfill the contracts, and God just really blessed us. He was our first employee, and now we have just under 50. But about 100, anywhere from 100 to 150 subcontractors at any given day, and we're in 7 to 8 states a day.
Do you mind saying the name of your company?
Integrity Communications.
Integrity. Okay. So, anybody got anything you want to ask her up till now? I want to let you guys get a chance to jump in before we move on with.
No, I've known her for a while, man.
Yeah, we go way back.
Okay, so I'm a little confused because earlier I was joking about 20 minutes, but now I'm starting to think like you actually know her.
We're friends.
Stop it. Is it real or not?
We're in the same studies class.
What studies? You're not in class? Stop it. Okay. I don't know what's going on here. Let's mess with Eric tonight. Okay.
Every night.
Yeah, let's mess with Eric again. So, folks, you are watching here Sessions, a live stream show on Facebook. It's streamed live from Shaker's Bar downtown Cape. And you are with my guests, Zach, Cody, and Jonathan, and the incomparable State Representative, Holly Rader, who is currently in the midst of, I'm going to say, get elected to State Senate. And not to curse you, but I think I'll honestly tell you, based on the story and hearing you talk, I think you connect with people. And this is one thing I know about, the little bit I know about meeting politicians. You don't come across as a politician. I'll be honest
I'm not
with you.
one.
No, and but see, we talk about this all the time. If we could have a candidate that would run for office, and I later was going to have this whole thing where I encourage you to run for a higher office. But if we had more candidates like you and like Dan Crenshaw and people like that were real, that had lived life and had experiences and understood the ups and downs and the ins and outs of life, as opposed to privileged people that kind of came from wealth and privilege, you understand when someone comes and asks you a question about, okay, what are you going to do about this? I don't think the education system is helping my children. I want to homeschool, and or I'm a young lady that I don't know what I'm going to do with myself, and my family's moving, and I'm broke, and I think I'm pregnant, and you know how to talk to people about those things, and it's not fake. You don't have to.
Right.
You don't have to ask an aide, hey, will you look up what teen pregnancy rates are? I mean, this is things you know, and so I will say, and this is in no way, I've never met you before today, but I will say this is in no way to blow you up, but to basically say we need people like you that understand life, because that's what's wrong is Washington's out of touch. And they think all of this stuff they're showing us, it's all part of our reality show drama drive, that we love this show. Well, we don't. Like, I don't want my politicians giving me a show. I want them to work. Right. I want to make money. I want to earn money. I want people to be lifted out of poverty by giving them an opportunity to see those things. So I appreciate you being as candid and as open as you are. And I think it's a good example for people that are watching it, is you're never done. You're never finished. There's always another day.
Right.
And if you just, it'd be interesting to talk to Holly when she was younger, and at that point when you kind of progressively decided to move forward in your life instead of just, you could have easily been a statistic.
Oh, absolutely.
And you made a good statistic. You kind of stepped out of that.
And and one thing is, it's so interesting because sitting in the WIC office or the health clinic, you're reading all of these brochures that tell you how you're not going to succeed, because it's like, teenage moms, and they have all of these. And
statistically,
and maybe they don't have them there anymore, but when I was 15 sitting in the
well, they word it
health
differently now. Now, if you go
like,
there now,
gosh, and it's like, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that, and I don't want my daughter to be that. So I mean, it was a motivator for me.
That's awesome.
I wanted out of that.
That's awesome.
And we're very blessed to have, when you talk about having representatives like Crenshaw in the Congress, we're very blessed. Like Jason Smith, who's our congressman
I like
here,
Jason.
He is super cool and just a real guy.
Yeah.
And he's someone else that really came from, I mean, you know, his dad was a mechanic, and his dad's business was right next to, you know, their house, and then his dad was a minister also, and he really came from pretty humble means and worked his way through college, and then got his law degree, and got his college degree, then his law degree, and he was only like 22 or 23 when he got out of there. I mean, he got really narrow focused and got out.
I've met him a couple of times through just functions, and he comes across as kind of like you do, real
Just
a real person.
Yeah.
And so I know he studied under Joanne Emerson, right? He was in her office and learned a lot from her. And then Joanne learned from her husband, Bill Emerson, which is the bridge is named for him, which is funny because as a kid I went to church with them at the First Presbyterian Church up here.
Oh, really?
And they both, Bill sat in the pew next to my grandfather, and Bill was always such a real, he was one of the kind of the old school guys, but he always talked to me and, you know, and how you doing? And
I always heard good things about him.
Yeah, he was a really good guy. And then Joanne came in. But yeah, that's cool that you say that about Jason, because I do honestly have those feelings about Jason. I think a lot of people do.
Just a normal guy.
Yeah.
You know?
Now, how many terms is he on now?
I think
Third, three or four?
Three. I think this will be his third.
Right, because he came in, he got elected after Joanne.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, he's a good representative. And that's the thing is, the state of Missouri now is kind of in that middle area where we've got a balance of liberal politics in say St. Louis and bigger cities, and then you got the rural communities, and you've got the farming areas, and then you've got Cape Girardeau, the kind of an integral part of this part of Missouri.
Yes.
Talking about Jason Crow? That you were talking about a second ago?
No, Jason Smith.
Jason
He's
Smith.
a U.S. congressman, but Crowell's actually. Do you know him?
Yep. Well, his brother was my coach in high school.
Yeah.
And
Crowell's pretty
he
cool
came
too,
into
though.
Yeah,
Mary
he
Jane's
is
the other
cool.
day.
Yeah, Crowell's pretty cool too. I like him a lot. Yeah.
I like him.
So now that we know Holly a little bit, we know her as a person. We kind of know where you come from, and I would love it at some point in the future. Maybe at some point when you get closer to becoming the next state senator from this area, have you back on the show. And,
I'd love that, yeah.
Once you're in it,
why I keep
that'd be
those.
really cool. And I think a lot of people can learn a lot from you, and it's good to have people that want to come on and talk to just people that are just watching. You know, we don't.
Right.
It's not a scheduled audience. It's not we're not handpicking people. These are people from a wide variety.
Yeah,
of
no, this
places.
is fun. This is different. I
Well,
like
good, yeah. And as I spoke on the phone with you, and I talked to these guys about it, the reason I did this show was
There we go.
there you go. The reason I did the show is because I was disappointed in media. I was disappointed in Fox News and CNN. I was disappointed in all of them because they had sold out. That's the way I felt about it.
Yeah.
And so what I wanted to do is let everybody out there know. I hope a whole bunch of people get iPads or video cameras and sit in their houses and have roundtable chats in their house. And I hope it becomes the movement. And this is the way news, getting to know people, talking about real issues that people care about is how it's supposed to be. And the problem is, Walter Cronkite's been dead for years, and I'm sorry because we
miss
need him
Cronkite.
back.
I miss
We need him back. We need truth
I
tellers.
agree.
Yeah, we need truth tellers, and he was at what they did a survey. It was maybe 2 or 3 years ago. It was right around the time Trump was running, and they did a survey on media and do you trust the media? And of course, it was a very low number. And then they asked questions like, at one time, when in the history of this country did you most trust media? It was like 88% of the people that were old enough mentioned the time that Walter Cronkite was giving the news.
That's because there was no gray. There was no opinion.
No.
It was exactly, here's the story. Have a good night.
Yeah, and here's the thing: is then he would encourage people to he would give interviews and he would encourage people to do their research, to look into things and find out. Of course, back then, just encyclopedias and there was no internet, but the truth needs to be told, and that's the thing this whole thing here is about people telling the truth, and whether it makes us look bad or good, we tell the truth. So, all right.
Right.
So, let's move into our topics,
I
guys.
make everything
these
look
out.
good, just so you know.
You do? You make everything look good?
Everything.
You're working that beanie real good.
Yeah, the beanie looks great.
Yeah.
Borrowed it from Cody.
But you know it's going to mess people up if they buy the T-shirts and you got your hat on. You got to leave your fro out, man. You got to leave the color. There we go. Nice. There we go. That'll
really
ingratiate
Cody.
yourself to people.
Just channel
Mommy,
it.
I want to date a guy that looks like that. No, you do not.
Can't get my hair to do the flippy thing.
No, I'm gonna have to go switch to my beanie. I'll be right back.
Yeah. So it's funny though. Cody that night was Tuesday night, right? And he had brought like 3 or 4 hats with him.
I usually do. Yeah.
And so he was messing with people, and he would every so often go back and put a different hat on, and he would see if anybody noticed, and then he started betting people, and nobody noticed when he did it. It was really funny, and of course,
No one noticed.
Nope.
Well, it has nothing to do with people drinking either. It's
Not at
the
all.
memories are really intact when they're drinking.
For sure. That's why I waited till later in the night to make the bets. But no,
I bet you $5. People
I
are
bet
just
Zach
like,
does.
"Okay, great bet, $20."
No, I bet Zach that he'd have to take nasty shots that I made him if he didn't notice, and he had to take 2 of them, and they were rough.
You know it's a nasty shot when the bartender goes, "Oh God."
Yeah, pretty much.
He gave me the shot and a trash can.
Yeah. So the fun you have in a bar. So let's move on. Let's get in with the crux of things. You are watching Sessions, stream live from Shaker's Downtown Cape every Thursday from 8 to 10. I have my guest here, an incomparable Representative Holly Rader, and she's agreed to come in and take a chance with us. So I appreciate it. So let's move into it, and we'll start with Zach. What does it mean to be an American? And then continuing that, how do we become the youngest country in the world to be who we are? Because we truly are the youngest country to ever reach this pinnacle.
I'm going to answer the second part first, and I
Okay.
think it's mindset.
Okay.
I mean, the nation itself was built by breaking away from tyranny, wanting to be that independent state as a union, not individually, of course. So I think it's the mindset that helps you, and I think that ultimately what leads to being American,
Right.
And that's, I mean, we love every aspect about what we have here, our freedom, our troops. I mean, it's the pride in one's country, the pride of a nation, that keeps you going there. And I mean, myself love this country. There's not another country I will say even comes close to it. This is the best. This is where it's at.
Yeah, we got it pretty good.
And it's my mindset though. And I think I don't. Ultimately, I'm going to have to go with mindset.
So that's an interesting point, mindset, because we were formed on ideals.
Yeah.
This country, and I remember, Bono, the singer from U2.
I've heard
he
of the
actually
guy.
gave an interview. Yeah, Dinesh D'Souza did a movie, Hillary's America. It was a few years back, and Bono
Picked up one of his albums on iTunes.
Bono was talking about the United States, and he's from Ireland, or Scotland. Is it Ireland? Ireland, right?
Ireland,
Dublin,
yeah.
And he talked about what America was and what he viewed it as being from another country, and it was built on an ideal principles of what could be, what was possible if people had this vision of freedom.
We are the reading rainbow of nations.
We really are, and that's the other thing. I'm glad you said that. Mindset is because you ask any immigrant that comes to the country, the ones that came here legally, the ones that go through the process and care a lot about this nation, they don't want to change how it is.
Not at all.
They want to be part of it, but they want to add their mix to it. And I think that's what's great about the country is we want people to come here.
Hands down.
This is the melting pot of the world. And to say otherwise is it is. And it's to say otherwise is just a farce, a lie. If you look at how our country was formed, we recruited from other countries. Please come here and help us build this country.
And I think that's ultimately what led us to be the leader.
Yeah.
We are the world leader.
Yeah.
People ask us. Everybody mentions our military budget being so high.
Doesn't hurt.
We're also the fact. I'm sorry.
I like
Right.
I like how Cody said it. Just add it. Doesn't hurt. It's good.
Right.
Speak softly and carry a big
And
stick.
carry a
Yeah.
big stick.
Yeah.
But everybody mentions our military budget all the time. That's because we're also the world police here.
Yeah.
We have our military helping other countries. We're stationed in, I literally don't know how many
It's
countries.
30-something.
I knew it was like an astronomical amount when you think about it, but that's why.
So Cody, what does being American mean to you, bud?
I think the kind of the beautiful thing about it is kind of up to interpretation by whatever you want it to mean. You know what I mean? Like the beauty of having the freedom to do what you want to do in this country kind of lets you, America, be whatever
Yeah.
you want it to be. I mean,
That's cool. It really is. That's true. You really can. The American dream is basically what you see it as, and when you see what's laid out in front of you and the opportunities that are available, it really is a wide open path. I mean, talk about follow in the Wizard of Oz, follow the yellow brick road. Coming to this country is following the yellow brick road.
There's almost nothing you can't do in this country if you work hard to achieve it.
I agree, and that's the thing is, on that same thought, when I go to Holly, the people that may at this time that may be watching or that may find us or that are in this situation and they think that maybe this country isn't all they thought it would be, right? And you hear them in interviews, and you hear sometimes, and it's without being political, there is one party that pushes more Americanism than another party, but regardless of that, what do we say to people that maybe don't see the American dream like we're talking about? Maybe they see it in a darker, more patriotic way, and so what do you say as someone, if you're just talking to an individual about your pride in this country, what do you say to them to kind of help them kind of see what you're seeing, what you know?
We have limitless opportunity, and that is what America gives us. It doesn't matter your background. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter what your starting point is. In America, it depends on your merit. You can do this. There is so much opportunity for us here, and we have the freedom and the hope that tomorrow can be better. And it just doesn't matter where you're at. You can find a path in America to get better, to have a better life, to provide a better life for your children. And but you have to get started, and you have to stop pointing fingers. Don't put the blame on. It doesn't matter it doesn't matter who the blame is. It doesn't matter what has happened up until now. You can literally change your destiny here.
You could have been the person that blamed people in your life. You mentioned, I grew up in trailer courts too, so I know. You grew up in probably worse places too. But you mentioned something that you noticed other people around you had it worse than you did. But that shows your mindset. Like he was talking about mindset in America. You chose to think a certain way. You could always choose to think negatively, or you can think positively. And so what you just said is you got to get started. And this is exactly the point is America's about moving forward. It's about being strong in weak times, but also understanding I've got another chance. I've got an opportunity.
That's right.
And you're only restrained by how much your mind restrains you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what you're saying kind of falls right in with that. And then, like you said, I think, and that's what I'm trying to do here is develop and show you it is an ideal. It's based on a principle of effort. It's, you try hard, you work hard. Now, do you fall short? Of course you do. But in your case, you could have said, I give up, but you knew you wanted more.
Right.
And you knew if you wanted more, you couldn't sit there and wallow in your guilt, wallow in your
Self-pity.
pain, self-pity.
Right.
You knew Holly had to get up.
And and the other thing that I had to do, because like I had sisters and cousins, and but I had to cut out the fun. I mean,
Yeah.
I had to say,
a
okay,
good point.
I'm not, I'm 16. I'm not going to go partying all the time. I'm not going to go do what everybody else is doing. I have to be mama. I have to work
Blame shakers.
and multiple jobs or whatever to get us there. I had to choose, okay, I'm not going to spend my money on these other things. I'm going to be frugal, and I'm going to put it towards this, and we're going to get better and get the heck out of here.
So real quickly, I wanted to, you would know this firsthand. There's a lot of information out there and studies about this, but when young ladies have children at young ages, they often talk about how you become emotionally stunted because you almost stop growing emotionally once you have a child. Did you deal with that? Did you feel that, and you knew, okay, I got to what did you face that? Did you face your own maturity?
No, in my home, at about 11, I had to start kind of making a lot of the decisions in our house.
Okay.
And my mom really relied on me for just a lot of the decisions.
So you were already on that path of
Right.
maturity.
I was already kind of being the boss.
Okay.
When I shouldn't have been, but I didn't like the situation around me, and
Right.
so I just started doing that.
Right.
And so by the time I had my own child, I mean, I was already lost and handling it.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I mean, I took my responsibilities very seriously.
So does your daughter look at you like a hero, or just your mom? Mom, you're awesome, or Mom, stop talking to me.
She's pretty awesome.
Okay, cool.
She's really strong.
Awesome. So Jonathan, where are you at on this, man? What's American?
I actually wrote down. I went and Googled it because I'm always
You're the
looking up
stats guy, man. You're good,
yeah.
bro. That's what I was hoping
Well, I
for.
found like with the majority of Americans, when it came down to like three things that you consider being American, it came down to freedom, and it kind of touched on everything we've already talked about. Freedom, equal opportunity, and rights accompanied by responsibility, which I thought was very interesting. That a lot of
like that.
Americans like recognize the fact that it's like, yeah, we have rights. We have a lot more rights than other countries, but they are accompanied by responsibilities. Like it's kind of like the with great power comes great responsibility quote. Like you can be a
like
country
that.
given a lot of rights, but you need to understand that with those rights become things that you need to keep yourself
I want to stand up
accountable to.
and salute right now. Can I do that?
Yeah, go for it.
No, that was good, man.
That's good.
That's really good. I like that. So, anything else to add to that?
Right, that was the three that I had.
Now, what
right
about
there.
you personally? Let's get off the stats and now let's ask Jonathan. Jonathan, you're a well-rounded guy. You got a future ahead of you. You're a young guy. So, what is it to you? What is this country to you?
I mean,
now?
I think to me, like I remember talking to my parents when I was young, equal opportunity sticks out to me more than anything else because I had my rebellious phases when I was younger, and I'd just be like, what's so special about America? And that was one of the main things my parents really instilled in me is they were like, we have equal opportunity. In other countries, depending on your stature, depending on your level of money or what family you came from, it has a big influence on what you can reach. But in America, you can be any person from any kind of background, and you can build yourself. Like you can build yourself to being the president of the United States. You can lead the whole country from firsthand. Just having very affected. Very affected early stages of your life. Like it doesn't matter what family you came from. It doesn't matter if you're represented by this or that company. You can build yourself up, and I think that's a pretty special part of America is that any person, like there's equal opportunity. Like just because your parents were beggars when you were growing up, that doesn't mean you can't start your own business, and that doesn't mean that business ain't becoming, different countries with caste systems
I want
and
to
stuff
comb
like
your
that
beard
will
right
affect
now.
that so much.
I want to comb your
need
beard.
to comb my beard. I'm trying to finish.
I got some good stuff.
I want to
can
shave it
recommend.
off. I'm trying to finish a short film, but we started it and
Come
I
here,
already
let
had
me
a
just
beard,
grab you
so
by the
I'm
face,
trying to
you
finish
cute
the
I like
finish
the
the filming
cynical
now.
look.
I love this. I love what you're saying, and the truth is everything you're saying is true. It really is. Is that it's
What is it? The pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness? or
yeah,
something?
yeah, and that's the thing is when you hear people that have come from meager beginnings and they never once looked at their meager beginnings. If you look at Booker T. Washington, this is a prime example of a real American. Booker T. Washington, everything that he accomplished was exactly what you're talking about. He never once laid back and said, "Oh, the man's got me," and this is that. I studied him quite a bit, and this is a fascinating guy, man. Tuskegee Institute and all that. He
Bit of peanut butter.
yeah. And people know this about him, but the thing about him is he the Up From Slavery was the name of the book about him, and he wrote. And the thing that I liked most about it is he never made excuses.
Yeah, I read his autobiography.
Yeah, he
and it was
never
the same thing. He was
never
very
made an
adamant
excuse.
about.
And he would recognize the fact that there was racism. No, we're not stupid. But he also understood that he could either allow that to be a blockade for him, or he could go, "Oh, no, I'm good. I'll just build a wall and get over it," or whatever. So, real Americans like Booker T. Washington, George Washington, Holly Rader, Jonathan, Cody,
B.A.
Zach,
Barkus.
B.A. Baracus.
I really wish you had just stopped at me.
I knew he was going to come. B.A. Baracus. If you know who B.A. Baracus is, we're not going to tell you. But send us a note here to one of them and let them know. So B.A. Baracus, do you know who B.A. Baracus is?
No.
Holly.
I'm done here.
Don't Anyway, we'll find out here in a minute. Somebody will answer it. So if you know who B.A. Baracus is or the TV show that he was on, let us know who it is. Good reference, by the way. So I'm gonna go through real quick a couple things that I listed. What I think why this country is as great as it is. Civil liberties. We fought a war amongst ourselves to end slavery. Now, of course, that was long before our time, but I think it shows something about our merit and our heart. that we understood, except most of us did, and luckily it ended up the way we wanted it to. We ended slavery, and we moved forward. The Emancipation Proclamation freed us from that. The encouragement of success. I think that this country is one of the few countries that pushes people and wants you to succeed, because it's contagious. If you are successful, your satellite of people that roam around you can be successful too. You're also a good example. Holly and whoever else out there, the life that you've led and the life that you're leading is an example to other young ladies that had to go through a lot of stuff. And not just ladies, but guys too. Like,
Right.
Holly did this, Holly did it. That's a campaign. Holly did it. Charitable philosophy. I've always said this when people knock on this country. We are the most charitable nation
We are.
in the history of the world. And the reason all you have to do is look. We not only do we help more countries than any other country, but we have put ourselves and we risk our lives, our men and women's lives, to help other countries. And so being a charitable nation and caring about that is in our DNA. It's in our philosophy of we want others, we want to lift other people up. A nation built on the concept of a dream that came true. I think you're laughing, so go ahead and clear it up. What'd you say? What is it? Monroe, don't read what Monroe said. Monroe, listen. Okay, so Chris Monroe works at the bar. He's one of my security guys.
Oh, okay.
So he also, at this time, is at work, and so he catches the show. And so he sends in his little Monroeisms.
Gotcha.
And it's usually R-rated, so we won't read it.
The takeaway from it is it's the 18.
It's the 18, yes. I knew Chris would know. So B.A. Baracus.
Yeah, but you have to see how Chris explains all this.
Okay.
Oh, he just did the TV introduction. In 1972, a crack commando unit was sent to prison by a military court for a crime. How did he know all that? Like,
He Googled that.
Did you just have that
I
in
do
your...
remember the 18.
You do?
Yeah.
He keeps it on the
That's all on his copy and paste.
He keeps it on clipboard.
B.A. Baracus didn't want to fly. He hated to fly, so they had to give him drugs to make
They'd
him
knock
fly.
him out and then like hide him in a plane.
I'm not flying, fool! And they give him something to drink, and he'd wake up, he'd like, did I fly? No, you didn't fly. Maybe you can hire the 18.
The 18.
That's awesome, Chris.
Yeah, it was just
Okay, so that was not R-rated. Thank you, Chris, for not doing that. All right, and moving on. A strong faith in the triumphant spirit of people and teamwork. I think we have a natural part of our philosophy in this country is we kind of believe in each other for the most part. If we didn't, we'd give up and we just. But I think that's part of it is we know, and I think that's why we have such pride in this country is that the indomitable part, the part that doesn't stop us. I think we all have that, and I think it's important. The other part of that is a will to get back up and try. This country's never given up. We've been punched and kicked, and we've been involved in stuff that...
I feel like you need a quote on that, and if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
In the words of Rocky, I hear no bell. I hear no bell. Adrian!
No, my favorite one is Rocky IV. You remember Rocky IV, right?
My favorite's Rocky IV too. It's fantastic.
Okay, so the final speech.
If he could, and I could do it, we can all do it.
Talking about Russia, that was about the time when it was like the end of the Cold War, but it was kind of stressful in the 80s, back in Reagan's time, and Rocky IV's final speech after he fought Ivan Drago.
If he dies,
He dies. He fought Drago, and Drago was a huge national hero in Russia. He was this boxing guy and huge guy, and of course Rocky is from the country, so it was this big, Russia USA thing. And the end of it, Drago. Yeah, spoiler alert. Okay, if you haven't seen Rocky IV by now, I'm sorry. Where do you live? Because even the Philippines knows about Rocky IV. But they basically, he gives this really cool speech on the mic. And, I didn't know what to think about none of yous. And I know that you didn't know what to think about me. All right. We got a belief that if you are determined to make it, anyone can. Driving principle of never giving up. That's part of what we teach. So, let's go on to what America is great at. And the reason I wanted to do this part is I think it's easy in this country to, we talk about pride and all this stuff, but let's actually lay out what we're really good at. So I'm going to list these off, and then I want you guys to kind of jump in anytime. America leads in tech and in invention. We really do. Now, although there are some other countries that have done some great things in Germany and Japan and many other countries, we are the innovator in tech innovations. In fact, the richest guy in the world is from the United States. So there you go. Medical breakthroughs. We have way more than any other country. Although there are some from other countries. I looked, and we have Googles and ghouls of more than anybody else. Charity, we lead in that. Military advances. Now, some may say, oh, warmongers, but I say this, that, like you said, you speak softly, carry a big stick. We don't have to go around and punch people in the face.
We're not annexing things anymore.
No,
We're a little bit better.
we don't have to go around and punch people. We don't have to go scream at people. We don't have to threaten Ukraine. We could just say, hey, look, you want to work with us on this or not? This is what we've got. And you do that because you're strong. No one wants to work with anybody that goes, hey, I'm not sure, maybe. No, we need strength. And that's what this country's great about. So military advances. Anybody can jump in anytime. Education. Now, we have more international students attending colleges and universities than anywhere in the world. I knew that, but I didn't know, so I looked it up. My wife works at SEMO, and I know SEMO has a large international population, and they recruit international students. I look at a country based on its population. What's the value of the nation? What is it with you and that pen, man? That pen does not like you?
I keep spinning it.
Oh, you're on
he dropped
thumbs
it
every
today.
15
Oh,
spins.
okay. He keeps giving you his pen. Do you have any left? No. Okay. But I think that tells a lot about a country. It says a lot about a country when you look at the makeup of their universities and their education, because that means parents recognize what our educational says, especially our higher learning, and they send them here. So I think if other nations recognize that we offer such good education, we are such a good place to live, you would not send your children, your love of your lives, to a country that was something that the media says that it is often. So let's just, all the things that I just listed, let's go around and let's talk about the different things. Those are the points. So what stands out to you, Zach?
What stands out to me is we never had to make it great again.
I didn't. Okay, so I wanted to make this as non-party specific as I could.
That's just a slogan, sir. It's just,
okay. You just wanted things to be great again.
Now
it's Keep America. It's Keep America great.
okay.
He's already done the Make It Again.
Hey, I'm not talking about anybody in particular. I'm just saying
You're not
words.
talking.
I'm just saying words.
You're
That's
funny.
what I'm about here. But no, that's the main takeaway here. I mean, when you think about it, I mean, look at all these. Look at the charity, the education. I mean, myself, I strive to absorb as much knowledge as possible. Knowledge truly is power.
Yeah.
And when you look at this, you have other countries literally, hey, study hard here, and we're sending you to America. Here's an American degree. You know, look what that does for you. I mean, yeah, we're a world leader, and we will lead any which way we can. And if that means that we give people democracy, then so be it. If it means that we just teach, then so be it. And I think that's ultimately why, you know, we are fantastic.
Yeah. So I will say I read a book from a Chinese author, female Chinese author, and it really was an examination of Chinese culture. And because in that culture, you have to work, and
Yes.
you work for the government. So typically the fathers go wherever they're told to go, right, in a socialist communist nation. And so oftentimes you leave the home and you go to another village or province. And then the children and the mother is left alone. Well, this young lady had been trying to get a job in a certain factory, and she got the job, and this was all about her time in China and her relationships and her life. And then her one goal, her one dream, was to come to the United States. She knew that she could fulfill everything she wanted. She wanted to be an author, and she knew she couldn't write a book in China, about China. She knew she couldn't. So she knew, if I'm going to write a book, she wanted to be an author, I got to come to the United States. And she got here and got a publisher, and bam. And so I look at those stories from immigrants from other nations that come here and that want to come here. There are thousands, I would say millions, I would venture to say, that right now, at this time, whenever they're sitting around with their families, there's a little boy, little girl, man, woman, are sitting around and thinking to themselves, if I could just find a way to get to the United States.
Right. No, I agree.
I have this idea. So there's a family in Jackson, and I talked about this on another show.
you did.
They're from what did I say? Vietnam, and they are. There's only a couple that speak English. It's a whole family that runs a donut shop. It's Jackson Donuts. And I talked about this before because I was so impressed by it. And I asked them, I said, where are you from? And they told me, or maybe it's Cambodia, told me who they were and where they're from, and that all their aunts and uncles and the people, they all work in the kitchen and they all help make they're all working together. Got to make the donuts. And what I was so inspired by was the lady that I was talking to is, I asked her where she was from, and I was impressed because she smiled when I asked her, and she smiled and she said, Cambodia. And I looked in the kitchen, I said, is this all family? And she said, yeah, all family. And you're lucky I didn't do the accent right. I usually try to do accents.
It would have just been Russian again.
Yeah, I told a story last week about my experience in Italy because I was in the Navy, and about a Zippo lighter and some cigarettes, and so I tried to mimic the accent of the cab driver, and it was horrendous. It was like a Russian / Italian /
It was rough, Bob.
Spanish. I'm not sure what it was. Terrible.
It was Zangief and Mario.
And I was so conscious of it that I went home and cried. I want to appreciate. I curled up in my little ball and
Why don't you go home and listen to some accent videos?
Yeah, exactly. I went on YouTube and I listened to Drago.
There's a really nice family that works at Rice Noodle Kai here in Cape. The same thing. The whole family works there. They have kids working there and stuff. The place is delicious.
The place is delicious. It's incredible.
Really, that good.
Cheeseburger egg
We
rolls.
need
fantastic.
sponsorships.
I've not been there.
Cheeseburger egg rolls.
Really good.
We need people that we're giving
God, I
all
wanna
these
say the
shout outs
catchphrase,
to
but I
people. What do you think, Jay? We need to market this better, don't we? Yeah. T-shirts and stuff, right?
I didn't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the best.
So listen, guys, we are going to do some T-shirts. I already have one for you. I already have one for you. I have one for you too. So basically, they're going to have little sessions-isms, but it's going to be based on each person. I'm not doing one because I'm so non-distinct. You don't want it's just like a mush on the page. You don't want to worry about it. But you guys stand out and are distinct, and the show runs because of you guys. So we're going to do some T-shirts and some merch. So get ready. We'll look for our swag and merch on the store. So let's move in. Anybody got anything else they want to add to that? I didn't go to you guys over here about it, but the things that I talked about: military education, charity, medical breakthroughs. Where are you going? Where are you going, man? Holly, what do you think? What stands out to you about this country the most? Is there one thing, or is it just a collection of?
No, I think it's a collection of. I mean, we're America, and we have such pride in that. But I mean, our poverty in America is nothing like poverty in some of these other countries.
No, it is not.
When you think about moms and kids walking a mile to get fresh water.
Yeah.
We're so blessed here, and we are just to have been born in America is a huge blessing to start with. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, I have never wondered why people want to come here and move here, because it truly is just the shining light on a hill. I mean, with the opportunity. I mean, it's just, we're America. It's awesome. So,
it is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, everything you talked about. I mean, and the fact that our military is top notch, and that our men and women go overseas and stay away, through Thanksgiving and Christmas, and don't see their kids for 6 months because they're keeping our freedoms intact and helping other countries with theirs. It's incredible. We have
and for those people that think sometimes we get involved with too many things, I'm a war vet from the Navy, so I look at it like this. I do think that there are times that we maybe kind of involve ourselves in things, but being a world leader, sometimes that happens. Sometimes
we don't get the choice.
Well, sometimes we have to stick our foot in the door and say, look, we're here. Just like if it weren't for us, Israel would be non-existent. So I look at things like that, and I look at the times that people have railed against this country and protested. Which protest is your right, but you protest about things that you don't really understand. There's a reason that we do the things that we do. Now, do I think that there have been people in charge that have had the wrong motives? Sure, that happens. Man, people, power, and money. But I do think that our principles in this country and the people that make this country what it is, all of us, immigrants, no matter where you're from, it's all about us having a shared goal and a shared dream of living out the American dream and capturing that, man. It's an amazing thing. And like you said, you really need to see other places in the world. You really need to don't go on the internet and just you really I've gotten to travel and it was a great thing in the military, but without seeing these places, because you really have to see the down to see the up.
Right.
And that's the way I was in life. My upbringing and when I was, it was so hard for me growing up and the things that I went through, but I could never see the bright side of things if I didn't see that part. So in other words, this country's been low, it's been high, it's been in the middle, and the whole point of this is we are the beacon of light. We are that bridge because we want everyone. I want everyone to succeed.
Right.
I want Jonathan to do everything that he ever wants to do. I want Zach to do everything. I want everybody. I want that little immigrant girl right now that's in Cambodia that's wanting to come over with her family. I want her to keep that dream alive and come here and do great things because that's what this country's about.
Right.
And that's what makes it great.
I agree.
Jonathan, you're a very well-spoken guy. You've got great ideas. What about this country do you like for you personally? Of the things that I kind of listed, what
Can
kind of
you quickly list those again?
Sure,
Because I was thinking
yeah.
about those earlier.
Yep.
Awesomeness, greatness,
Fantasticness.
awesomeness,
Holly's here.
Zach's here.
Superiorness.
Shake.
All the isses that you can think, all the isms and isses. So we
Belt
had
loops.
tech and invention and innovation, medical breakthroughs, charity, military advances, and education are some of the main ones.
Education's one of the main ones that sticks out to me because me and my girlfriend both actually, after we graduate college, we'd really like to find a organization actually overseas that needs English teachers.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so you basically just go to another country that needs more English teachers and start teaching English. And I have a big, thank you very much. I have a big drive for that primarily because I think it's very important, kind of like you guys were talking about, to travel places and to experience different cultures. But I do think it's very interesting that I feel like in those programs where they're looking for English teachers, it's a lot of Americans. Like it's not as many Europeans, different countries that speak English. It's a lot of Americans, which I feel like kind of exemplifies how America is a leader in areas of education worldwide. Military-wise, we obviously are a military superpower. I was actually reading about, a lot of people think that we became a superpower when FDR managed to, so we had the Great Depression. FDR came in and saved the economy with the New Deal. And then after that whole situation leading into the Second World War, when he was able to secure an alliance with the Soviet Union and Britain, that is when a lot of people think that we moved into the threshold of all right, we are now a superpower. We have established our dominance. We have established our presence here in the world. Like we are one of the main leaders.
Yeah, Japan kind of recognized this after they bombed Pearl Harbor, and on their way over to bomb Pearl Harbor, the famous general quote. Remember I don't remember which general it was,
dragon,
but he warned their military leader, whatever the title was, the imperial whatever. He warned them. He said there will be a rifle behind every blade of grass.
Yeah.
Do not awaken the sleeping giant. And we at that point we had really not. We had done World War I, and we'd kind of helped out, but we weren't the main antithesis of that. I mean, we were part of it, but.
And then we showed them power.
No, that was another thing I was reading about was where was that?
He is this
had-
guy, isn't he?
I had this number
We love this
somewhere,
guy.
but our economy was pretty much unaffected by World War II because our economy was doing so great at the time, leading into it because of FDR and how honestly dominant we were coming into World War II. Our economy was virtually unaffected. So then after World War II, while a lot of other countries were trying to rebuild their economy, we were just booming, and we were.
And didn't that have a lot to do with the Industrial Revolution before
Yeah.
that? We came out of the Industrial Revolution right into war, so we went from building all of these factories and places to work and manufacturing and went right into war.
Yeah.
Demand for it.
Yeah,
And
so
then
everything
it benefited
supported that.
ourselves
Yeah.
by aligning with the people that we did, and then
Yeah.
coming out of it. Yeah, our economy was booming out of World War
I think
II.
it also probably helped the fact that we kind of sat out of the war for a minute.
Yeah, we sat back and watched. We really did. And
Save some money for the first decent portion of it, just kind of watching how everything was playing out.
We
and then we were
have
pulled
some
into
of
it.
the best strategic leaders and guys that study some of the greatest leaders in the world. And there's Patton, I believe, that read Sun Tzu's book, The Art of War.
The Art of War.
And it was all about giving yourself an advantage on the battlefield. But I actually read it for communication and for business. The Art of War was really good because it tells you how to use your weaknesses as a strength and your strength as a weakness, and then keep people kind of off center.
It's also great for meditation. I mean, like that book
really
is
really
well rounded.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry about that, by the way. I had to take a call from my assistant.
oh no, you're good, man. Your assistant. What's so funny is when you say stuff sometimes, if you don't smile, I'm like, really?
Sure. Yeah.
Like you guys did to me already. You are watching Sessions stream live from Shaker's Bar downtown Cape every Thursday from 8 to 10 p.m. And Zach and I were talking about this real quick before we get on.
Please.
But
What was the topic, by the way? I missed.
we were just kind of closing out with this country and the different things I listed. Did you want to add anything?
No, I was just making sure. I'm still
Okay,
going.
cool. Yep. Zach and I kind of talked about this, and
Thank you, Bailey.
your brother actually brought it up about adding a day to the week, like a Tuesday, to do like a 7 to 9 show before open mic, and Cody would be here anyway. We kind of talked about that, making one night kind of just a potpourri, just a silly night, and then one fact-based. So it's maybe something we might do. So if that's interesting to you, if you guys watch every week, I know there's several of you that I do watch every week. I actually have hello to Alex, my cousin, Alex Martin in Indiana. He said he was going to watch the show, and I'm hoping that his mom, Brenda, and John are watching. They're family of mine. I don't have a lot of family left. I'm kind of a man to my own, left to wander the wilderness. And
I got you.
risked, and thanks, Zach. So let's get into our next stuff. So Holly, you introduced yourself. You talked a little bit about how you got to where you are. What are your aspirations? I'm really interested because you're at the state level. You're a rep right now, and so you're in Congress. So you initiate laws. You bring things up, and then it goes to the Senate, and the Senate says yes or no.
So in the Missouri State House is where I am, and so you have the House and the Senate, and you can start bills. We start bills in both houses.
Okay.
So they have to pass both houses before going to the governor. So some of the bills that get to him have started in the Senate, some have started in the House.
Okay. So what are would you like to talk just a little bit about your future aspirations? I know you're running for Senate, for state Senate, for the Cape County area. And what is that, a district, or is that not a district when it's not a rep?
It's a Senate District 27. So right now, Senator Wallingford.
Okay, and he's retiring. Is that correct?
Right. So
his term limit.
He's term limited.
Okay.
And so he's actually running for state rep.
Okay. Oh, okay, that's right.
Because the state rep is term limited also.
Yeah.
And so he's running for that position.
Okay.
Now, as far as future aspirations, I really, I feel that I still have a lot to give. I've really been candid on the opioid epidemic. And
we're actually going to talk about that.
And
I'm gonna let you rail into that
on the floor, and I think I've really helped with the stigma of mental illness and the opioid epidemic. And so I feel that I have a lot of insight into, I think we need people from, as we talked about, from all backgrounds in Congress and in the State House. I think it's important as you're massaging bills and you're working on policy. It's important to have them well-rounded and well thought through. And so I think I still have a lot to give, and I do have aspirations to move into higher positions, maybe into Congress someday.
Okay.
But really, it just depends on, God has put this fire in my belly that I'm a fighter. And, I grew up scrappy. I'm still scrappy. And as long as, I feel like I can't sit on the sidelines, that I have to be in the middle of this and fighting for people who can't fight for themselves. I want to keep going. And so I just kind of sit back and see what doors open. And if not, I love I have a beautiful family. I've got 2 more grandbabies on the way. I've got a 10-year-old grandson that is just my joy. And, in a business that I love, in an industry that I grew up in. And so if being at home is, and staying here and working and running my business is what God wants me to do, I'm all for that too.
Okay, that's awesome. So I just want to say this. I think Governor Rader sounds pretty good. That Rader part, that just goes together, Governor Rader.
Supreme Chancellor Rader.
Supreme Chancellor. Is that a new position? We could create that. All right. So let's move on to a subject that you've spoken about. I know you gave an interview on KFES about this, and you spoke candidly about it. We are at a table of gentlemen, so typically we're not able to. Yeah, mostly gentlemen. I use that term loosely. We're men, bunch of men are sitting here, but we do like to talk about issues that typically men don't get to talk about because we wanted to be. Here's the thing: all of us at this table are in tune with topics in the world that typically most guys probably don't care. I'm in tune with sexual assault. I said last show I was molested at 12 years old, and so I understand how you feel and the mental aspect of it. But I know that you in your interview and you talked about helping people that aren't able to help themselves or are too afraid to. So I would love to start with you on this, and then we'll go around the circle. But you have there's a stigma around sexual assault. There's a stigma, and I think by talking about it more and more, and we kind of open the door to it for people to talk about it. And I think that's part of the problem is that a lot of, since it's predominantly women that are victims of it, but even men are afraid to talk about it. They think that someone's going to judge them or make them feel less than what they are because somehow they're at fault. And I know as a young man, when that happened to me, I know I was kind of caught in a whirlwind of confusion. Like, it was my fault. Did I do something? Why me? So let's have you start, because you have spoken. It's on your website, and you've spoken about this clearly. First of all, why do you think there's such a stigma around it? And then can you speak a little about, without going into personal stuff, but where you want to go with it? What is it that you hope that we can do in this country, and specifically the state of Missouri, where you can be a forefront on that can really guide that, because your story will speak to people. So
growing up, I had my mother and then two sisters, one 2 years older than me and one 3 years younger than me. And so again, we grew up in a very my mother never did drugs. She was on a lot of medications for her mental health, and but we were around people who were dangerous.
Do you mind mentioning what
she was manic depressed.
Manic depression. Okay. All right. Thank you.
And and so some days she was in bed all day, curtains drawn,
that's the disease.
Yeah, and other days not, and she really lived following her emotions. How what guy was the main guy at the time, what he wanted. And so as girls kind of moved along, but my older sister, who really started doing drugs early and really got into trouble early, I mean, she started running away and everything at like 11 years old. And she ran off and joined the carnival at like 13.
Actually, the carnival.
She did, yeah. I mean,
that's cool.
Juvenile had to get her back from Florida, and we lived in Houston at the time. Just crazy stuff. And so my mother, from the time she was little, from the time I was little, I'd been hearing about the sexual abuses that she had gone through. And then I knew what my sister was going through and the different stories that when she made it back home, that she would tell. And so I was the one in the home trying to protect my mom from these crazy guys, but then also protect my little sister. And so I was very aware of it, but the one thing that my mother did instill in me was that it wasn't my fault. That sexual abuse was not her fault. It was not my sister's fault. And so when it did happen to me, I had spent years watching her be a victim. And I'm like, heck no. No, I am going to tell. You're not going to do this to me. And I had a responsibility to protect my sister. And so because of the things that my mother had told me at way too young of an age, I had that strength to know that it wasn't my fault. But so many people, it's embarrassing, it's shameful, it's, you go through all of these feelings, and then you decide, well, I'm not going to say anything.
Right.
That's what my sister did. But when it came to me, I'm like, oh no, we're going to tell everybody. This is stopping right here. And I just had a different mindset about it. I mean, God just really gave me the ability to speak out against it and say, and it was my grandpa, my papa, I knew he loved me. But I also knew that he had abused my mother for years.
When did you find that out about that he abused your mom? Was this at a young age you found it out, or when you got older?
It was when I was a very young age. I mean, she, through her, illness, I mean, sometimes she would just unload everything.
That is a manic depressive thing. Sometimes they feel very candid and open, and they want everybody to know why they. Yeah, that's
it
true.
was, and so we knew details of everything, and she was, she was sexually abused by her brother and her uncle when she was very young, 4, 5 years
It does.
old.
There's a pattern that develops in families, and I learned this from studying it, but that oftentimes when there's a patriarch or an older member of the family that molests or sexually assaults a family member, some of the other family members become part of that too, because that victim seems so easy to victimize. And so that this mentality, this predator mentality, develops amongst typically the men. Now with women, it typically it comes through with abuse and something, with physical abuse when they attack. But typically with men, it's sexual, and here's
Emotional too.
it is emotional,
Right.
and I always wondered why sexual. Why was it that? Because it's not about the act itself. It's about subjugation. It's about making victims, because control and that. So did you feel that as because it sounds like you were looking kind of from the out. You were in it, but you were also seeing it. So you were well in focus on what was going on.
Right.
And so you speak about your grandfather. You saw it. You kind of knew what was happening, but you're in the family, so you feel like you're stuck. Is that kind of how you felt? You were like, where do I go, kind of thing, or?
For me, it was my mother didn't. I wasn't living with my mother at the time. I was living with my great aunt, and
Okay.
it had happened. It was one of these moments where she had loaded everybody up and moved, hop states again, and I just said, I'm not going. I don't want to go. I'm not going.
So you stayed back.
So I stayed back with a family member, and that's when it happened. And so
It's our new drinking game.
I was, I wasn't with my mom and my sisters, and I was staying with a great aunt. But
Do you think that if your mom and sisters had been there, that it might not have happened? Do you think that would have been a kind of
No.
a cushion for you, or do you think it still would have happened?
it would have happened because I'd stay the night at his house, and it was very normal. I mean, that was my safe place. His house was my safe place. I
Right.
mean, that was the only place I could sleep at night without having to, and it was just, I mean, he was the one guy. He was the only person, and I trusted him so much. And even though I knew these things about what he had done to my mother, I trusted him so.
Yeah.
I loved him. And
Well, we want to, right?
Right,
We
and-
want to. That's what we.
yes, and
yeah.
I know he loved me. I mean, he was sick, and and even when when he got cancer, I mean, I moved in and took care of him. Now, I never allowed my daughter to be alone with
Right.
him, but I loved him, and I
Well,
forgave
that just
him.
shows your strength. It just shows how strong you became through all of that. That
Well-
you were able to move back in and take care of him, living with the fact that you know what happened.
Right, and I, the one thing that I did is I refused to talk to him anymore. So I went to my aunt's, refused to talk to him. He said he would get help. That's when I started talking to him again. He asked what I wanted, and I said I wanted to go away. I mean, I wanted out of that life.
Yeah.
And so I talked him into paying for me to go away. We were Seventh-day Adventists at the time, and I went away to move to Tennessee, to the mountains, to the Seventh-day Adventist school,
Yeah.
and was alone, with them for a few months until the school shut down and then bused me to where my mom was at the time, which was back in Texas. But it was, I think it was important that I wasn't ashamed. I was broken. I was hurt.
Betrayed. I mean, the trust you had obviously for him.
Right.
For that to be your only safe place, for that to be taken away from you like that, I mean, that's rough.
Right, and that was, but I knew it wasn't my fault, and I wasn't about to accept that it was. And I wasn't about to just walk away and let him do it to more people.
Yeah.
I mean, I threw down some requirements here.
I'm just going to say to you, as we're moving along, I just want to compliment you, and I'm not trying to toot your horn, but I just want to compliment you. I have never, ever heard a political candidate, anybody in office, speak as openly and candidly about your personal life as you have. You are not afraid.
You know, I'm not.
That is so refreshing, because you're so used to hearing like filtered and censored stuff that's like perfect for the camera. And Holly, you're just you.
This is the thing: is that never in a million years would I be in politics, and so it's like, I mean, God opened this door, and He gave me this microphone. And there are people who need to be helped by my story. I mean, He's brought me through a lot. This is, I know me, and I'm not, all that awesome. It's God, and so I have an opportunity to show His strength, and so I have to do that while I have a microphone. That's what I have it for.
That's why I do this show.
We have a new drink game, by the way. Every time Jonathan drops his pen, we drink too.
And what you were talking about, there was when I did tell my story, I had more men reach out to me than women and tell me thank you, because they had been sexually abused and had never, because it does carry so much more stigma.
Really does.
Well, that's the thing. You can be a victim or you can be a voice, and how you decide on that is always a double-edged sword. There are sometimes you will lose your entire family based on how you decide whether or not you call them out. Well, you can be a victim or a voice.
That's a good point, because your abuse you suffered at the hands of a family member, and mine was from someone outside the home, but my mom was a single mom in the 70s, and so I was kind of sent to be with this guy. He was a teacher, and he was a male figure, and I didn't know my father, and so it meets all of the statistics that you hear about, father this home, single mom, all that stuff. And it went on for a year, the whole year that I was in that grade. And I will say that hearing you talk about it and hearing the way that you speak, I knew very quickly, during the time I blamed myself, but I knew very quickly after it wasn't my fault. But I also wondered, why me? Why me? What's the deal? Well, it wasn't just me. It was other people too. And when I realized it was other people too, that's when I was like, oh, he's just sick. He just has a problem. So people have asked me, so did you ever want to take revenge? Just to be real. There was a time in my life where I did, but then he ended up having a terrible death in life, and karma came around and smacked him in the face a couple of times. So it kind of came through. But to hear you talk about being able to get past that, and your inner strength and your heart won out over that feeling, and you helped him while he was sick, that's very admirable, man. I got to say, guys, you want to add anything? Want to jump in, or do you feel like better just move on?
Just thank you for sharing. That was
that's
awesome. Hard. So.
And in this time of media where we sensationalize this stuff and make it such a story-eyed thing, and like, the truth is, it's about real people going through real stuff, and we don't hear the personal side of things. We hear the generated stories, the narratives. And to have somebody sit here and talk about it, man, I feel honored, and I really appreciate it. And I hope that somebody out there watching right now, this is why I wanted to do the show, is because I wanted people to hear something on this show that made a difference. And that's, like you're talking about politics, God opened the door for you, and now you're using the microphone while you have a chance. That's exactly what I'm doing. We may not do this for another month or so, but the point is, we are, but the point is while I've got it, and while I'm able to talk to somebody, if one person finds solace, then what else is there, man? Helping each other?
And that's what so to say that it was strong, and to come from a place I've never been sexually assaulted or anything like that. So for me to hear your story and find you powerful, find that very encouraging for other people that have gone through that. Oh my God, that can change somebody's life to hear those words. You know what I mean? That's where it really affects somebody.
Hands down. I actually just think it's phenomenal that you spoke out against a family member, because personally I understand what that entails, and I get it. and it's rough, and you end up alone a lot.
You know, somebody told me one time, I was talking to an older guy in the Navy, and he told me, he said all of his broken dreams and promises from his past, all the things that fell away and became waste, he lit them on fire and used them as fuel for his future. And I was like, whoa, this is an old Navy guy who had achieved some rank on his own, worked his way up. But it's you crumble up the stuff in your past, you set it on fire, you burn it, and it propels you forward. So I think that's
powerful.
And
I think it's great to be talking about stuff like that, because same with like mental health. It's become such a stigma for so many years that you don't talk about it. If something happens, don't mention it. Just go on. Like I've got here, fewer than 20% of rape and sexual assault survivors seek any type of assistance from victim services agencies.
And see,
like that is a very low
number. If this country ever turns that around,
is what helps me deal with that.
We will fulfill all the dreams that we ever wanted,
Yeah.
and we won't have so many damaged people. It's a sad thing.
And that's what, and I think with the Me Too movement, one of the most incredible points of that has been that when that perpetrator has to question whether this is going to be told or not.
That's exactly right.
When the secrecy of it is not the norm anymore.
That's right.
Then that's when we win.
When it gets to a point where you can't think to yourself like, oh, well, I'm so powerful, this is not going to come out.
Yeah,
like Harvey Weinstein, that was a powerful dude. When that whole story flipped, a lot of powerful people that just thought like, I can do whatever I want.
Well,
like,
you can see
whoever.
You can see Harvey Weinstein in court and the look on his face. He had this little boy, I'm caught look.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like you're saying.
He thought he'd gotten rich enough where it was like, this is not going to come back.
Your money will not
Harvey
save you.
Weinstein.
Your influence will not save you anymore. Because people are now waking up, and Me Too made that possible. Now, for all the politicization of it, the whole base of it is the important part of it, which is say something. And if you are if you know someone, whether it's a child, an adult, if you know someone, encourage them, support them and inspire them and be there for them so they can come forward and talk about it. Expose it. Like if you shine a light on it, there's no darkness anymore. There's no secret. There's no
get your bullhorn.
Yeah, get your bullhorn. Because this is the show. If you ever want to expose somebody, I'll be glad to let you expose somebody.
Hell, we'll help you.
That's right, we will. All right, so this one I think I'm interested to hear what you have to say, and I brought it to Zach. Can a person support abortion and not support the death penalty? Meaning, can you say, let's abort a baby, but let's not kill that criminal? So, we'll start with Jonathan. Jonathan, can you support abortion and not support the death penalty?
Hold on.
Let me see.
Jonathan.
What's up?
Book down opinion first.
Put down opinion first.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad you said that because I was going to get to it after he said the facts.
Everybody has Google. I want to know what your mind says.
The question is, can you support
abortion?
abortion?
Out of his mind.
The question is, can you support abortion but not support the death penalty?
Can you support, and what I'm saying by abortion, right? We can all argue when we talked about this on the show, when life begins. Then that's the thing they're going to now to kind of dissuade and put people off of it. Like, well, if it's not this, if it's just a mass of cells. Okay, let's say life begins at conception. Okay, so if you're aborting whatever it is at that time, the formation of the fetus, the child, the human being, can you support that and then not support? In other words, don't kill this convicted criminal because life matters, but then support abortion.
So I'll preface this by saying I'm a strong proponent of separation of church and state.
As am I.
So
that's why I'm asking for your personal.
First of all, the fact that it has been voted in and been voters have agreed on it that they support abortion is one thing. I myself, I'll personally say I don't personally support abortion, but at the same time, I'm not going to say that it's unconstitutional or anything like that. Like it's been voted in by the voters.
But your moral compass is telling you that, right? Your heart is saying.
Yes, that's my moral compass saying.
Okay.
Like I don't think that's a pristine thing. But at the same time, I don't particularly support the death penalty because I don't think humans are. I don't want to say capable. I think it is very touchy subject to say a human can determine whether or not a living being, has lost the right to continue being a living being.
Right.
So as far as can you support abortion while still supporting the death penalty. I think the whole issue lies in the question of whether or not you assume that a person is a living being from conception. If you think consciousness begins at conception,
Right.
I think the whole argument lies in there, which I have not formed my full opinion on that. I'm not sure exactly where I think that.
Well, and this isn't about it's not about you being wrong or right. It's about your opinion on it. It's really just to offer up a thought process for people out there listening and to kind of really lay out, these are the quandaries, the problems in life that we need to think about. And I want to compliment you because I can see you thinking when you talk. It's freaking awesome. It's like you're a visual talker. So I can actually see you like searching your mind because you're trying to be careful about what you say, and I appreciate that because we don't want to insult anybody. If you're facing a decision in your life, if you're a young person, as Holly was, and you're facing this decision to bring a life into the world, it's a big decision.
Yeah.
Now, we're not saying that people aren't going to be faced with these problems. We're not going to say that. But I, as Holly, and it sounds like you are, I do not believe in taking a life, especially a life that has no choice.
Yeah.
Now, as opposed to that, on my end of things, if somebody has committed crimes and been convicted and it's proven, and it's their time to go, now on your side, you're saying no. But I also believe that I get your humanity side of things, like can a human make that decision?
Well, a big part of my thought on the death penalty is that the power of psychologically coercing someone into a confession is very strong, and when you get into a point where you've got a couple detectives really grilling somebody and being like, "Hey, man, all you got to do is tell us what you did, and you can go home." The mind gets into a fight or flight kind of mindset, and it starts thinking to itself, I got to get myself out of this situation. If I can get myself out of this problem, then I can go home. And I actually wrote down somewhere they assume a conservative estimate is 4.1% of people on death row are innocent. And there's actually, through DNA evidence, there's actually been it was a group of 5 people who killed an elderly woman in their apartment complex. The girl who said she put the pillow over the face, they quoted her saying, she said herself, they asked, why did you do it? And she said, I was doing her a service because she was so old and senile anyways, like I was doing her a service. They have proven through DNA testing since that all 5 of the people were not in the building the night of the murder. It is physically impossible for them to have done it. But they all confessed. And like you get under a point of such harsh scrutiny and harsh, they're trying to get an answer out of you that your brain goes into a fight or flight mode. And it's like, okay, I need to construct a story because they're telling me if I just tell them what happened, I can go home. So I need to build a story. And that's what freaks me out with the death penalty is, I actually did some math here somewhere. I forget where it was, but it's so there's 2,500 people in America on death row right now. If 4.1% of those people are innocent, that's 102 innocent men, roughly. And 1.4% is the conservative estimate. And so, I mean,
so what's your solution? Obviously it's a problem.
Yeah, it's a problem, but it makes me. I can't decide. I mean,
maybe
there
is
this
level of evidence.
Against
somebody.
Maybe raising the level of evidence, but like it gets to a point where these people, even people that are on death row, that DNA evidence proves they were not in the building, does not matter. You were convicted by a jury of your peers. Like that's as far as it goes. Like you were convicted, you are guilty.
John, what do you think about maybe if we developed a task force, so to speak, right? There's the Innocence Project that looks into these things. What if when someone's found guilty and sentenced to death, what if a bipartisan, an independent review sat down with the case and actually fairly and openly talk, like have meetings like this?
Would they have the power after a jury convicted them? Would they have to have the power to overturn that?
No, because they're not the law, but they could recommend strongly. And I think here's my and I've said this before.
A new trial or something.
Well, they could actually, the review board would have be able to meet with the governor of the state, maybe some representatives, maybe a judge or two, and advise. It would be an advisory council and say, look, based on our observations, and you've got to have 7 to 12 people, based on our observations and based on the review of this case, this needs to be looked at more in depth. And you take away all of the guilt, the innocent. You basically just let them look at the case and look at the interviews and what they said, and basically be investigators. Now, it's not to question the police. It's not to say that the detectives didn't do their job. It's just to say we need to have more oversight because we're saying we're going
Putting somebody to
we're
death.
going to kill this human being. So we need to make sure we are sure.
Yeah.
And like you said, it could be 104 people right now on death row that may be sitting there that didn't do it. So would that be something you think would work?
I think it would be very beneficial. I think there would be a couple structural issues that would need to be revisited and re-looked at, because at the time, like at the moment, regardless of whether or not DNA evidence, which we've come up with since like what, late 90s, early 2000s, like
DNA.
like you can get convicted, and if a jury of your peers decides, like from all the evidence we've seen, you did it, we believe you are guilty, like we are sentencing you to death, it does not matter in the after fact if DNA evidence proves that you were not even in the building. A jury of your peers decide. That was like with the West Memphis Three. The only reason they got off is because they took an Alford plea, which basically says a jury, you are guilty because a jury of your peers found you guilty, but we also have evidence to prove that you did not do it. So you are going to admit that you're guilty because the evidence of your peers said that you're guilty, but we'll let you out because we know that you're not guilty. And it's just a very strange.
Yeah. So let's. Hey guys. So let's move on to Holly. Holly, I'm sure you have an opinion on this, and I would love to hear what you have to say. So taking in mind what he said and what I've said, can a person support abortion that does not support the death penalty?
Well, I mean, I think obviously yes, because we have people that do, and I think that it absolutely hinges on a lot of people's, like, to me, life begins at conception.
Right.
But that's not what other people truly feel in their gut.
Right.
And so I do know people and have friends that, you know, do not feel life begins at conception.
Right.
That they think life begins at birth, and that do not support the death penalty. Now, I support the death penalty. These are very troubling statistics, and I have heard these before, and do know that we need to up the game on this. I mean, we need to work on this, absolutely, but I mean, because that is very troubling. But I do think that, I think people do.
You can do both.
Right.
Yeah.
It just depends on what.
You can rationalize anything.
Right, right. I mean, you know, now to flip that, you know, we've had the discussion on the floor before of the House is can you not believe in abortion but believe in the death penalty?
Yeah.
So flipped,
Right.
you know, we have that discussion a lot, and of course, you know, we believe in innocent life.
Okay.
You know, absolutely not taking innocent life.
Well, if we could ever come to a consensus, and I think in general, if we could ever come to a consensus on when scientifically life begins, if we could finally get down to it, and like Jonathan said, he believes in the separation. I believe that too. Even though you're in government, I think you understand what I mean by this. I don't like the government telling me how I'm supposed to do things. I don't want my representative saying you have to go here and do this and say this and think
I
this.
don't either. That's why I got in this. I'm tired of government being all about my business.
That's awesome. And so I think what it comes down to is I think if we have to lean on humanity. We have to realize that first we're all humans, right? And that goes down to little baby in the belly. We have to somehow realize, and if people that are on, like you said, they believe in their gut that life starts at a certain time. We had this one in one of our episodes where I said if ultrasound existed back when Roe v. Wade was around, would it still have gone through? And we hashed that out. And my thing about that is when you see pictures in the womb of little hands and feet, it's really hard for me to say that's not a human life. But anyway, so let's go. Cody, obviously we can believe in it, but what do you think?
I mean, you guys pretty much touched on it. I mean, can you believe in that? Yeah, like I said, you can rationalize anything. I think that I'm pro-choice. Like,
Right.
No, and obviously, like you have to understand that pro-choice doesn't mean pro-abortion. Like, I don't want people to just run around having abortions.
That's it. Well, hold on. That's interesting. I'm glad you said that. So I wanted to ask you, since you did say pro-choice.
Yeah.
I had this argument with somebody one time, as you can imagine me arguing with somebody.
Never.
What, to me, as a life advocate, pro-choice, what is the choice?
It's the woman's choice, whoever's
do
having
what?
the baby, whether or not she wants to keep it.
So that means
it's
that
her body,
means abortion.
her. Yeah, I mean, but that's what I'm saying. It's not my. It's not. I'm not saying yes. I want a baby's aborted. You know what I mean? Like
No.
I don't like the.
What I meant by that is
No, no one's putting that in your mouth.
I don't like something getting aborted any more than anybody else does.
Right.
But is it my place to tell a woman what she can do with her body? No. I mean, that's
Right.
why I'm pro-choice, because it
I
has
just don't
nothing
think
to
it's
do
their
with it.
choice to
Okay.
say what I can do with my money.
Okay, that makes sense. I get that. I get what you're saying. You're making the decision to let the individual.
Yes,
okay.
exactly.
Okay.
So yeah, can somebody think that? Yes, in my personal opinion, if somebody believes in aborting somebody, should they not believe in death penalty? No, I think you're splitting hairs at that point.
Okay, good. And you're right. I think your point that you can rationalize anything, people do it all the time.
Yeah.
They in their minds, they are faced with a certain dilemma or problem in life, and they're like, well, let me just think this,
Right.
I'll think this way, and then you make it okay, and that you're exactly right. All right, Zach, finish us up on this.
Really, is he pro-life?
Yeah.
Conception, that's just cut in black there. And I'm 100% for the death penalty.
Okay.
It's
That kind of answers the question, then can you believe in it? Just like Ollie said, yes, you can.
yeah. I mean, I have no problem. I have a very radical standpoint on the death penalty.
No,
Go figure.
not you.
Go figure. And no, I wholeheartedly believe in the death penalty, and I wholeheartedly believe in pro-life. I believe that birth is at conception. It's not when it comes out the womb or cesarean section or whatever. They even teach doctors in a pinch, you value new life over old life. I mean, you wouldn't teach this for years if that doesn't hold some grain of salt there.
So, see, here's my thing is, I think, and you alluded to this, but when the government gets involved, this is my issue, right? I also agree with you. It's an individual problem. It's an individual decision, right? So it shouldn't. I think there should be some teamwork on it. I think if, unfortunately, it becomes an individualistic thing where you're left alone. And I think a lot of times when women are facing this, if they had, in your case, I don't know how you did it, but women are much stronger than men in the most parts as far as emotionally.
Yeah.
I mean, they
Or,
just naturally, you're just born
Pain
that
tolerance.
way. I've said that to my daughters. I have twin daughters, and I tell them all the time. One of my daughters asked me the strongest of the two. She goes, "Daddy, do you think women or men are stronger?" I'm like, "Women, by
Women,
far."
hands down.
And she says, "You're just saying that." I said, "No."
Have you ever
women-
seen a man get sick before?
Yeah,
We're
it's
useless.
ridiculous. So my thing is since I'm a man and I have no idea what it's like to bear a child, all I can do is speak from the aspect of I'm a human and I think I have thoughts. And my thing is what I would say to a woman, and with the death penalty, I would say, a woman, I'm not going to tell you what to do. Right. In fact, I'm not going to presuppose to assume that I should even know. I don't know what you're facing, what your mind is saying, but I also know that I have a belief in when life begins. And I also know that I've seen ultrasounds, my baby's ultrasounds, and I've looked upon that little life inside the womb at 3 months, and it's there. And so it's hard for me not to see those things. Are you kidding me right now? Are you just trying to get attention?
I keep flipping it, and I can do it for like 40 times in a row before it drops. And I keep convincing myself.
I think
it'll never
I
drop.
kind of want to elaborate on yours just a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. Like I'm never going to tell someone what to do. It's their life, their choices. But I also have the strong belief of when it becomes down to a governmental situation, whether it be voted in or whatnot, where it's like, well, I choose this, and now you are paying for it. I think not.
I think that it's kind of settled, okay. And now I know it's a nice hot button topic for the media to talk about, because once you can corner somebody on an idea, this is why I'm so happy to have you here and you're so honest, because oftentimes politicians, you obviously are not a politician, you are just a person that wants to make some changes. But a lot of times politicians don't like to be cornered into an answer. They like to kind of leave it ambiguous and kind of talk around the subject. I appreciate your
She's
honesty.
been very black and white.
Well,
I love
that's what I'm
it.
saying is no one can corner you because you're like, this is what I feel and this is what I believe. So you want to try to trap me into a corner? You can't trap me because this is what I believe. So politicians, people out there running for office, listen to Holly. Pay attention. All right, so let's get to our last group, and Matt's going to be Matt, I'm sorry, dude. I've been running over. He's drinking. He doesn't care. All right. So the last one, and I know that you're going to care about this because this was something that it's near and dear to your heart. How did this country get an opioid epidemic? How did we get where we are with opioids? And as the country is, the war on drugs and all that. But how did we get such? Because the opioid epidemic stands out because it was started in doctors' offices. It really was. I hate to say that. Well, actually, I'll take it back. It was started in the pharmaceutical companies that made the drugs. And then doctors precipitated that by saying, here, try some of this. So here's my thing. I know that's kind of answering the question, and I'll let you start because I know this is one of your main things. How did we get where we're at with opioids? I mean, what is it?
It was a perfect storm, tsunami. So I grew up in drug addiction. I did not raise my children around drugs. I raised them in church multiple times a week. Mom and dad up in their business all the time.
Yeah, well, you have to be.
Yes.
Parents, if you're not in your kid's business, you're doing it wrong.
You have to be.
Look
Parents,
at
stay out of business.
No, Zach. Bad Zach. Bad werewolf.
Maybe.
At 17, my daughter, who was a student, doing all the things right, cut her thumb at work, went and got it stitched up in the emergency room, and they gave her Scriptalora sets. So that's opioid.
Wow. That's excessive.
Yeah, it seems like a big.
That's substantially excessive.
Somebody who cuts their
How long
thumb.
stitches, though? It was bad enough for stitches. That thing hurt.
So she
and
was-
plus,
Yeah.
there's so many nerve endings in your hands.
17.
Dude.
And how old is she now?
33
Not to say that
now.
I'm
So we're
condoning it,
talking,
but,
Right.
it hurt.
16 years
Threes
ago.
would have been sufficient.
16 years, right? 16.
So
So a whole generation ago. Okay.
So that started her drug addiction. When she ran out of those pills, she just started buying them at work, and then when she couldn't afford them anymore, she switched to meth, and then
Right.
what have you. So that started 13 years of her addiction, in and out of rehabs, a stint in prison, my grandson being born with opioids in his system, me getting custody of him when he was a year old. Now, she is over 5 years drug-free
Awesome.
now, and the best mama I know.
Right.
But the early 30s mama back then didn't know near what the 50-year-old mama knows now.
Well, that's how it is. Yeah.
Yes, and so after studying this and it being such a priority to me in the legislature, the way that this thing took hold of America is you have this drug that was created that really does relieve pain.
Takes away pain, emotional and physical.
Yeah, just any
Absolutely.
kind of pain. It just
Void of existence.
It's gone.
It's
Really great stuff.
right.
You don't care about anything.
And so, and those drug companies marketed it to, and they didn't know at first that it was addictive. Now we're finding out now, of course, as we're seeing these emails from
Mentally
Purdue.
addictive, sure.
Do you really think that though? That they didn't know it was addictive? Did they? Do you
Well-
really
I'm
think
with
Like
they
in
were?
the trials, yeah. It's like, come on, they were testing
No, the
this
reason I'm not
stuff.
trying to call you out. I'm just
Yeah.
saying I've heard that before, and what I wanted to elaborate on is because I think that pharmaceutical companies know exactly what they're doing, and I think they know by testing it, like you said, when you give a little smidgen of a opioid to a rat, and you watch what happens to the rat, right? That's testing ground, right? And then you may move up to something else. You're not allowed to do monkeys anymore. But the bottom line is I'm going to kind of challenge you on that. Is do you really think? And I know you're being fair, but do you
Yeah.
really think the big pharmaceuticals didn't know that it was addictive?
I think for a while they didn't, and the reason is because I know someone with my DNA who drug addiction years through my genes.
Yeah.
neuroscience shows that when someone with my type DNA takes an opioid, I mean, it lights our brain up like a Christmas
So
tree.
you have an addictive DNA.
Right.
I've just
the 4th
started
of
reading
July.
about that. That's
Yeah.
super
Right.
interesting. Yeah.
And so, you know, where I want to go clean the garage when I am on an opioid, where when my husband, who's the guy that walked in and is sitting down over there.
That's your husband?
That's my husband.
Okay.
So
I
we're
feel
like trying
much
to
more
figure out
relaxed now.
who's the guy in the
No,
corner.
no, that's what he did. As soon as he walked in, he kind of sat down. Typically, they go over there and
Like,
drink, and then he sat down, and I was like, he must know somebody.
That's why I just kind of squared out.
Yeah.
She's over here holding court. She's taking control.
So, you know, when someone without that addictive DNA takes one, they, you know, if my husband has to take one because of a surgery or whatever, 10 days, 14 days, whatever, he can stop it and it's done. When I get migraines occasionally and have to take, I mean, I get sick. My body, it goes through withdrawals after just a couple of days of taking it. So I think there was a period before they knew, and Purdue, clearly we now have emails and all these things showing that they didn't care. Once they found out, they didn't care. It was not important to them. But then how that happened is, so you had all of these, the Purdue's really marketing to these doctors saying it's not addictive, and you have these doctors being assessed. So our doctors are assessed on, did you take the pain away for that patient? So patients do satisfaction forms.
Quality of life.
Where they fill out saying if that doctor took away their pain or not. And if the doctor didn't, then that doctor gets hit by the hospital he works for or whatever. So it's such a catch-22 for that physician who's really trying to help this patient. But the reason that we see the states that really got so bad at first and have had the worst cases of it, like West Virginia,
yeah.
is those are the states with a high occupational hazard.
Yep.
So like your mining states, because when people are injured from work, then this is what they go on.
Do you think, based on what you said about the DNA, is interesting? So it made me think of this. Do you think, and I just say this because sometimes pain meds are necessary. You have a major surgery,
Right.
and
Yes.
you know you have back surgery or whatever. Sometimes it's very helpful to help get through. And pain discomfort causes uncomfortableness in your mind and your body, and you don't heal. It helps promote healing, right? The swelling. So my question would be: do you think that you could somehow in the State House or at some point in the future? Could we analyze people a little more, maybe do some DNA testing and see, hey, you have this gene, and then maybe there's something else that they could do to...
You can also be predisposition, like say, like you said that your grandchild was born with opioids in his system. If you're born and you have that level of normity as a baby, then once you try that later in life, you feel this sense of completeness because you're like, oh, I remember this. This is a comforting feeling, and your predisposition towards almost kind of being addicted to it. Right.
And if you felt it when you were younger, it was like, this was the first comforting feeling. Like this is what I've been trying to get back to.
It's
This is
nurture.
the
So now to finish up, you being in a particular position to actually affect some change, like you want to do. What is something that you're working on now, or something that you really want to work on toward the future for the state, for your district, and basically the state as a whole? Like, if you got to be, Holly gives a speech in front of the State House, and Holly's going to talk about opioid addiction. What would be your thing? What are you going to say? What is it that you want people to know? Like, we're going to work on this, and this is what we're going to make part of our existence. Yeah.
So you'll be surprised when I say, and because it's not a law at all, but we have to start accepting science and addiction is a disease. And they have.
I completely agree.
I mean, that is something that has been medically proven, scientifically proven. That is something that they've been saying for years. But society has not accepted that.
There's a stigma, right? Because we think people are just supposed to get up off their back and be
Right.
better. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why you have so many of like the deaths of despair. These pills, they put you into depression. I mean, you go into the depths of places that some people don't come out of when they're coming off of it. And so it's such a cycle because so you go into rehab and you do 30 days and your body is clear of this drug, but you are not right yet. Your brain is not clicking yet. You are not firing yet in your brain, and it takes years sometimes to get to where you need to be.
And that's just if you stop at at pharmaceutical medications. There's tons of people that are like, oh, heroin's just a slightly stronger version of this that makes me feel better. I'll try heroin. You know what I mean? And that's where it starts to get scary.
Can you speak to just real quick? I'm sorry. Can you speak to little flags for parents, because you've been through this? The things that were right in front of you that just you saw it, but you didn't think it because it was necessary for her healing. And there's something that you can tell parents to look for that would help them, because you've been through, you've lived it. So if you have a child that you've taken to the hospital and they're taking something, is there something that you can tell a mom out there, like if your child is doing this, get involved?
So one thing, I do random drug testing in my house. So from the time that
smart.
my daughter went through that, I mean, I started doing random drug testing.
Okay.
You buy them at, Walgreens for $30 or whatever. But my son, who's 27 now,
Sorry.
Thank you for not being
So you are watching Sessions. We're gonna run over a little bit, and we'll let you finish what you're gonna say. But he is on his 8th pin that he's dropped, and it's right in the middle of a very critical moment of somebody speaking. It's like all of a sudden you hear driving it, and then now he's just going. I don't know what shame. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. Another pin on the floor. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Finish.
So my son, who's 27 now, I mean, he told me, he said, you have no idea how much that helped me being in high school or whatever. He said, because like when somebody'd say, hey man, you want some of this? He's like, y'all know my mom is crazy. She will drug test you if you come in.
Cool for a sleepover, man? Like,
You're
peeing in the cup after 20 minutes.
Look, you need to be to the line, and there's a movie on, and pizza's in the oven. But I need you to fill that to the line.
Exactly.
Hey, we're going to have a great
Hey, you know what? That's a good point, though. As a parent, or anyone that has children, you have to be that guardian. Like, there's no more of this, let them be. No, you have to be like, what are you doing? What are you looking at?
You're their moral
Pee in
compass.
this bottle.
Right.
You have to.
And because kids trust doctors.
It's not a bottle, bro.
It's
not a bottle.
Well, it is a bottle. What do you call it? A jug?
Fill up this whole bottle of
Fill up this gallon jug.
But yeah, I mean, so you give them cover like that,
Uh-huh.
but then you have so many. I mean, kids are not afraid of medication. My
No,
youngest,
they're
he's
not.
like, Mom, half the high school's on Adderall.
Oh my
But
gosh.
you,
And you're not wrong.
You said
are
your
not.
boy's 27,
So my middle son is 27. My youngest is 23.
so I'm just a wee bit older there, and we used to have something called pill parties.
Yes.
You know,
Pill parties.
Farm parties.
yeah, farm parties. Yeah, I
Do
mean,
y'all like shared pills and stuff?
we'd have
Hey,
just
try some of these blue ones.
no, like seriously, there was a bowl filled with pills,
No.
and you would just take a handful and go to town.
Oh my.
Yep.
I'm glad I missed that, man. I'm glad I missed that.
I don't know how we made it.
I smoked my first joint at 16. And I thought I was like breaking the law, but pill parties? Like I have no idea what this bowl holds, but this pink one looks nice. Really?
So kids are
Dude.
They're fearless. They're not. They
that's so
trust.
scary.
They trust
And then there's also
doctors.
the peer
like,
pressure aspect.
like
Yeah.
15 through 19 years old, you literally think like, I can't die.
Right,
like
yeah.
people older
I'm
than
invincible.
me die, but like people my age don't die. That's ridiculous.
I'm
so
30
just
and I
like
still
grabbing
think
into
that.
it, yeah.
Wow.
But just grabbing into a bowl full of random pills, I can totally see how as a high schooler, it's just like
So,
nothing's gonna happen to me.
Now that you
long-term.
know, what would you tell someone to look for now?
Very high highs and very low lows.
Okay.
If your kid is giggling more than they normally do, or seem to be in a better mood, or they start shutting people out that they used to be close to, or have a new set of friends. But regardless, I think random drug testing is incredibly important. I think it gives your kid cover for when they need to say no to something, but it also gives you those teachable moments to where if you do find something, whether it's marijuana or whether it's a stimulant, you have that moment to sit down and say, okay, we got to talk about this, and I need to explain all the reasons why this doesn't work for you.
Now, when you did, I'm sure you had that moment with your kids, and you spoke about your daughter. Did you have that talk with her, like Mama's been there, Mama knows?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And how did you, and now that she's such a well-rounded person and a great mom, and she's come through all that, you've got to have a certain sense of just pride about that. Like you've
I'm so proud of her.
Yeah, like you got through it.
She's, I mean, she went through, I mean, homelessness. I mean, she shot up for years. I mean, you have this 4'11", beautiful, bubbly girl down to 86 pounds and just a skeleton, and not mentally herself.
Is she watching,
for years? She goes to work at like 5 in the morning, so
probably
she may not
She's probably
be watching.
sleeping. If you happen to be what's her first? Well, no,
Right.
don't even, you don't have to say her name.
Well, I talk about her all over the state.
Okay.
I've spoke about her in DC. I've been
Okay,
asked
awesome.
to come out there and
So what is her name?
Rachel.
Rachel, I want to tell you something. You already know this about your mama, but you come from great stock, and good for you. And I thought I had a rough life. You charged through it, and you're doing awesome. So you're an exact example of why your mom's an awesome person. So if you're watching, that's amazing. So anytime you start feeling down a little bit, just remember that stuff. Like that's such a good thing when you
come through a
overcome.
lot.
So I want to get you on the road, Holly. I know you got a little drive to get home, and your husband's here. So I just want to take a moment, and I want you guys to stick for just a second as we're going to finish up. But I want to thank you so much, not only for coming on the show, and because a lot of people in your position won't come on a show like this.
Being honest.
Well,
No,
and
no,
they're
I love
concerned
this.
about their appearances, but you obviously are a here I am kind of person,
Yeah.
and
And
that
thank
is
you.
so.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Like you have no idea, as someone that is so tired of politicians, that you are that person. That you are the person that actually says, "Here I am." Because if we had more people like you, this country would start turning, and we would stop all of this silliness and all this drama in media. Because I actually believe you. Like you're truthful. And it's a great thing to have. So I just want to tell you, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having
and
me.
And now he wants to thank me and Zach for how good we were tonight.
Well, of course.
We killed it, right?
And I want
I didn't say one offensive joke.
I didn't say a single cuss
that is
word.
true. That is true.
And I had them.
I compliment you. I told them before the show in the text, I said, listen, here's the deal. I never censor. I never do. Typically, this is wide open. But I said, we are being
did this
visited.
for you.
We are being visited by someone, and we need
we
to
have
make
a
sure.
girl at the table.
No, it wasn't girl.
I was really just a proper individual.
It was just a prompt, someone with morals and ethics. And we wanted to show that by doing this that we
It
appreciate
was out
you.
of respect.
Yeah, it was
Of course.
did it
really
for
out of
ourselves.
respect, and we hope that at some
Well,
point you'll want to
thank
come back and
y'all.
visit with us and be able to put your message out there. So
No, I
on behalf of
appreciate
the table and behalf of myself that as my bar and you coming down and giving us your evening, Miss Holly Rader, thank you for representing Missouri, and great luck in your bid for Senate. I'm going to be voting for you,
Thank
and I think you
you.
just got 3 other votes besides that. So
I
if
appreciate y'all.
when you go to the polls, and this is not why you came here, but you need to vote Holly, because we need people like Holly in office for sure. Like she's going to change Jeff
So
City.
much.
So Holly, thank you so
I
much for
appreciate
being
that
here.
so much. Thank you.
And
Thank
I guess they
you.
say you're free to go, the proverbial free to go.
You and I, we're buds for life.
Betty, best
Always.
buds. All 20 minutes
I got you,
before you
boo-boo.
do the show.
I got you.
Thank y'all so much.
We'll see you.
Thank you. Have a good
Thank
night.
you so much, man. Thank you. You guys be safe going home.
I'm old-fashioned in the factor of I stand up. So
Yeah, watch. Don't trip there. I don't want you to trip. on
please,
I'm gonna go this way.
Well, good luck with
let's
everything,
skip the
Holly.
lawsuit.
Thank you so much. Matt. Matt. Lake.
It's gone.
Did he leave?
I guess. All right.
Oh, did Lank leave? Bailey. Did Lank leave? Oh, he didn't want to wait anymore. Okay, well,
Can we tell jokes now?
let's close it out.
Yeah.
Let's get him out while you can.
Fuck out.
Yes! Get him out while you can. Okay, so guys, I really like the show.
Yeah.
It's a good one, right?
It was
Why we do
solid.
it, right?
That's why we do this,
You're
guys.
just making that happen. Like you're just taking things I say and adding to it. All right, so this makes it legitimate, so now you can actually say you're on a show instead of just I am having a conversation Thursday, and so
I do stuff and get drunk.
yeah, no, I appreciate you guys a lot, man. Like, because it really this could have been a bad situation. You guys were very, very good. And I appreciate it, man. You guys came through, and so I wish God, I wish I could pay you something.
Just keep showering some praise.
I wish I had the money. But speaking of that, I do want to say this to everyone that's watching. If you know anybody that's interested in advertising with the show, I have some really cool packages lined out. I'm not going to detail the packages, but if you're interested in sponsoring the show and getting your name mentioned on the show, getting every time I do a live feed or I mention the show and I do an ad for it, I'll put your name out there. But if you are a business or you're a business owner, or if you have an upstart and you want to get your name involved for a little small amount of money, I'd love to do that for you. And we're going to get some merchandise going here pretty soon. So we want the show to grow. This is episode 13, guys. We're now through 13 episodes. It's crazy. Right? Jonathan, I want you to stay on board as long as you can. That's your seat now.
Thank
You're a
you.
stats
I
guy.
appreciate
Do
that.
me a favor. Stop going to 40. Daddy likes to drink.
Stop going to 4. All right, well, we've kept you long enough. We've run over about 10 minutes, so I'm going to let everybody go now. For Zach, Cody, and Jonathan, I'm Eric, your host, and you've just been watching Sessions, streamed live from Shaker's Bar downtown Cape every Thursday from 8 to 10 p.m. We thank you for joining us for Real Talk with Real People. We had the amazing guest tonight, State Representative Holly
Phenomenal.
Rayner was
Phenomenal.
here. She's running for office, so get out there to the polls when it's time to vote in 2020. Get her in the office that she wants to be in, because she's got a lot of good things she wants to do for the state, and I really appreciate her effort. So, guys, appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching Sessions. We'll see you next week on Thursday.